Hello, hello, hello. That does look promising. Did not crash out nearly as fast. Except the Twitch feed does not say we're streaming. There it goes. Hallelujah. Alright, sweet. Apparently we have an ad. Yeah. That's a little bit funny. So in order to see the comments, I have to be on the other screen, I assume. That one. Okay, sweet. Alright. Looks like we are live. Looks like no one's in the chat room. Also looks like it's a little behind. Okay, very cool. Alright. Are we good? We hope. Andy's making faces. Alright, and we're live on the audio as well. And Carnage isn't wearing pants. Alright, good to know. It is not showing the viewer list, which is weird. There we go, 3 viewers. Why does the viewer list not show when I'm in the comment thing? Well, whatever.
You can, but
there's not enough room. Okay. Alright, that's fine. What matters is that I can see people's comments. Thank you for sharing, Brian. That was something we all wanted to know about you. Alright, are we good then?
Yeah, whatever.
Alright, sweet. Well, I'm going to take it away then. Welcome to the Legion Sode. Nathan previously did one of these for conversions, which you guys seem to enjoy. Hopefully you guys will enjoy this one as well. There were a few comments about our first video cast on last Sunday. I'm going to address at least a few of those today, hopefully. There were 4 big things I noticed. One was that somebody said I was heavyset. One said that I was less animated than I could have been. One said that the room was kind of boring. And one said that we didn't announce the video ahead of time. So I'm addressing most of those. I have booze and Coke, so that I will be more animated. We have a picture of Lilith of Everblight behind me, and we announced this a few days ago, so hopefully you guys actually knew this was coming. I have also heard that there's going to be, many people have threatened to turn this Legion episode into a drinking game because there are many things that I tend to say a lot, and I wish more power to all of you. I'm going to make it a drinking game by drinking as I record. So, hello again, Andy. We have Coke and Kilo Kai, which is a rum that I was introduced to by Cool Kurt from Springfield, which is amazing. So we're going to start the evening with that. Then Menoth John is always talking about how delicious Kraken is. So that will be drink number 2. We'll have a drink off. And then as I get more and more drunk, we'll just see which one I go to. If at any point during this podcast you guys see me pass out drunk on the table, someone should call Andy, Major Tusk, and let him know that there is a drunk person asleep in his office. So, excellent. And taking it away. For those of you in listener land, hopefully you will enjoy this as well. And I know we're going to make the video available on YouTube later. So as we go through, I will attempt to... Oh, no, I don't want to allow things to make changes. Just a second. Java thought now was an ideal time to upgrade, which is not true. So I will be just going through Legion. I'm going to go through it in War Room order. If those of you were wondering how I was planning to go through it, I'm going to go through all the War Beasts. Yes?
It says here that you guys just went live.
That's true. We did go live.
Stream.
That's a true thing.
All right.
People on microphone can't hear you say that, though. Andy says we're now live. So I'm going to go through all of the beasts, and then I'm going to go through all one of our battle engine. I'm going to go through the solos, and I'm going to go through the units. As things have attachments, I will also hit on their attachments. I'm going to finish it up by looking at the minions that play for us, and then the very final thing will be the warlocks. On the off chance that someone that's listening to this doesn't know anything about Legion, I think it's most sensible to explain the other things and then explain what works well with the different warlocks, in my opinion. The one thing I would say is obviously there are lots of good Legion players out there. I am probably not one of them, but possibly. I do have a... Let me get it out of my pocket here. I do have the 1 Legion coin I've won over time. It's a Gargantuan's coin. So if I ever need to flip a coin, then I'll get to flip a coin and make decisions that way, which will be very exciting for everyone. I do have opinions on what things I think are good, what things I think are bad, and if you disagree, great. Feel free to mention it in the Twitch stream. Otherwise, whatever, knock yourself out. So far, the only person commenting is Carnage, so we'll see if that continues for the rest of the evening. As my descent into madness gets more and more interesting, I imagine there may be more listeners. We'll see. All right, starting out with the booze. Okay, so the very first War Beast is the Afflictor. We're going in alphabetical order because that's how War Room does it. The Afflictor is, in my opinion, a pretty strong light beast. It costs 4 points. It does not have a gun, which is fairly common for light beasts. It does have a reach POW 12 weapon, however, and it is MAT 6. It is eyeless sight like all of our beasts, and it has flight, so the fact that it doesn't have Pathfinder is not a problem. Its Animus, in my opinion, is very, very situational. I don't know that I've ever actually used it. I've played many games with the Afflictor. I don't know that I've ever used it. It costs 1. It's called Coerced Protector, and it gives you sack pawn to Soulless Warriors. The reason this is good is because his melee weapon, once per activation, when it boxes a living enemy warrior model with an attack, remove the boxed model from play and replace it with an Incubus model. So the common way to use this beast is at speed 6, it'll charge in 9, threaten 11 inches without any buffs from any casters. It'll then, at a charging POW 12, assuming it hits with its MAT 6, it will likely kill an infantry model. It does have 3 Fury, so you can charge and boost it to hit and still have a Fury left over for the Animus if you want it. And excuse me. Then when it kills something, assuming it was a living warrior model, that will turn into an incubi, and then that incubi will be able to charge out and attack something with its 2 initial attacks. So pretty powerful combo. It can be a real problem, especially if you can get him into a unit of ranged infantry. But even with melee infantry, I've gotten a lot of value out of him. I like him. I think he's pretty good. When he came out, I was very, very excited about him. At 4 points, he slots into a lot of lists very easily in Legion. Legion tends to play very beast heavy, and he is a good 4-point light beast. He also has Inscrutable, which is, as far as I know, fairly unique rule. It might be on other models that I'm not thinking of right now, that prevents him from being taken control of with is it Domination? That's the Horde's version of it. There's the 2 spells that let you control a beast. You can't use it on him. Also, just like almost all of our beasts, he has the rule Blood Creation. He can never attack a friendly warlock as his frenzy target, and then he himself is soulless, which is, I believe, fairly uncommon. So anyway, pretty good beast. I think he's strong. I think he's worth playing. The second beast, alphabetically, is one of our best beasts, the Angelius. I'm going to drink a little more. The painting with Menot John that I've seen, he drinks a lot, and it seems to make him pretty enjoyable, so hopefully the same will work here. I'm glad you like the Lilith picture, by the way, Lupus Farius. I like it too. That was actually a birthday gift from my wife, Katie. So the Angelius, arguably one of the best beasts in Legion, and one of the better beasts out there in general. It's speed 7, which is great. It's flight, which is great. It's eyeless sight. It has a range 12, POW 12, crit fire hand cannon, and it has reach. So it's got a really, really strong package. The P+S on its melee attack is 14, which is reasonable but not amazing. What takes it over the top is that he has a star attack for armor piercing on the first attack with the tail strike. A lot of the things I'm going to be mentioning are things you're going to be like, no dur, I've played one game against Legion. Obviously, the Angelius has armor piercing tail strike. I'm still going to go over all of them, again, both for people that don't know Legion, and just because, as a reminder to myself and to my listeners as we go through it. So, get used to that. He is a fantastic beast. His Animus pushes any enemy model within 2 inches, 3 inches directly away from him in the order you choose, which is fantastic for scenario control. It does cost 2. It's a little on the expensive side. A lot of our Animus actually cost 2, so Animi, I should say. So that's something that is just, you kind of get used to playing Legion. I don't know how common that is in the other factions. I don't play another Hordes faction, so it is what it is. He does have Overtake, so whenever he destroys an enemy warrior model with a melee attack, he can then advance an inch. So what this means is he can either armor pierce against a heavy target, whether it be medium infantry or a heavy, and do significant damage with his initial attack, or the alternative approach is get him in there, he's got reach, he's moving an inch each time he kills a warrior model, doesn't have to be living, just every time he destroys one. So he gets to just mow through infantry, and we have lots of ways to protect him after he does this, which is fantastic. Speed 7, which is the fastest we get in our faction, and is very fast in my opinion, and he's great. Fury 4, Threshold 9, which is common for our beasts. He also has arguably the best defensive stat line in our faction, which is Def 14, Armor 17, same as a Warp Wolf. So great, and when you add Tenacity on top of it to go to 15, 18, it's just amazing. Which we'll get to Tenacity much later alphabetically. So, the third beast is the Archangel. Alright, so here's how I feel about the Archangel. The Archangel, until very recently, I believed was the most beautiful model in the game and unplayable crap. I'm just going to come right out and say it. That's how I feel about it. We have another question. Does that mean you'd like Brenos, Animus, and Legion one less cost? Yeah, yes. The one less cost for Animi would be great. It would probably be massively abused with an army of Carnivians and be unfair. Or alternatively, if we had a caster like Bradigus who just made them all cheaper, that would be fine too. I'd be okay with it. So anyway, until recently, I thought the Archangel was just unplayable crap. He has the exact same defensive stat line as our quote-unquote standard heavies, defense 11, armor 18. For a Colossal, he has very, very few boxes. I believe it's 48. I'm not going to sit here and count on camera, but I believe it's 48. Which, for a huge base model, either the Colossals or Gargantuans, is the smallest significantly. He has an almost Rabagor gun, which is POW 14 instead of 15. It is an AoE 3, but it's crit fire, which is usable but not great on a Rat 5. And it's only range 10. It's a strafe gun, so one of the things you can do is significantly fuck up a heavy with it. He gets multiple POW 14 shots into a heavy. It's great, but at range 10, you're putting yourself at risk to do that unless you use some of his special abilities, which we'll get into in a minute. He is speed 6, the same as our other heavies. He's mat 6, the same as most of our other heavies. He's rat 5, again, fairly common in Legion. And then, like I said, the exact same defensive armor stat line. Fury 4, threshold 9, same as our other heavies. So he's, for a heavy, he would be great, but he is a 20 cost huge base model. So somebody says they think he's only 45 boxes. That may be true. He is very low. He does have a POW 19 bite, which is the highest natural attack of any of our beasts in faction. And then he has 2 other melee attacks, both at POW 17, that are open fists. So he's got the open fists. He's got all of the different power attacks that are available to a Colossal Gargantuan. And he does have some very cool special abilities, which we'll now get into. So his Animus, I'm going to come right out and say it, unplayable trash. Already I can tell that unplayable trash is going to become a drinking game. I'm fine with that. Does it still come attached to an expensive heavy? Yeah, I'll get into that when I get to the Carnivean, but yeah, it kind of does. So, Draconic Aura is his Animus. It costs 2, and he only has Fury 4. It's range stealth, so nothing else can put it on him. And the way it works is that for 1 round, any enemy model that ends its activation within 2 inches is lit on fire. It's terrible. We are a faction that has both tenacity and spiny growth, either +1 defense, +1 armor, or +2 armor, both of which are significantly better, both of which can be put on by either the caster or some of our other models, and he doesn't have to spend 2 of his limited fury himself. And lighting someone on fire means that then on your turn, you're like, well, they might die on their turn, so maybe I won't attack them, except you're still going to have to attack them because they're in your way, because they're within 2 inches of you. And so then you're just killing the things you lit on fire with your Animus that then had a 2/3 chance to take a fire roll, which may or may not even kill them depending on their armor. It's just frustratingly bad. So Imperatus does have more boxes, that's true. He suffers from some problems. But then we get into some of his special abilities, which is where he kind of shines. He has Ride by Attacks. He's the only Gargantuan Colossal that has Ride by Attacks. At speed 6, what that usually winds up meaning is you move up about 3 inches, you shoot your gun 10 inches, and you back off 3 inches, which makes his gun feel like it's more like a range 13, which is great. I still wish it was a range 12 or 14 that you could boost up with the Ride by Attacks, but can't have everything you want. He does have Flight, which again is unique in a Gargantuan Colossal and is amazing. And then, like I said, the Strafe D3 +1 attacks as a star attack on his breath attack. So some good abilities. What makes him playable, in my opinion, is one specific caster in our faction is the only one I would ever play him with, and that is Abby 2. So when I get to Abby 2, I'm going to gush about how amazing the Archangel is with her. It is pretty good with her. In my opinion, unplayable with most of our other casters. There are a few exceptions. Alphabetically, we then get into some of our newer stuff, which is kind of cool. We have the Blight Wasps, one of the 2 Warbeast packs that are currently released, Scorn having the other one. I'm on the fence about them. I would like to try them out. They could be really, really good. They could be really, really bad. They have one really, really big weakness, and then everything else about them is pretty cool. So we'll start with the weakness. They're Def 12, Armor 11, 5 boxes. What that means is, functionally, they're the same as if you were an Armor 15 and had 1 box and were Def 12, which is murder stats on any infantry in the game. It's just really, really, really bad. They are considered both a unit and a beast pack and a beast, so there are things we can do to try to up that a little bit, but our faction doesn't have access to Defender's Ward or things like that would really make them shine. You get 4 guys for 4 points, so they are a point apiece, which is great. They use the new mechanic that all Warbeast packs have, which is for each member of the pack that is currently alive, that is the Fury stat of the pack. They have a fixed threshold of 8, but they have a max Fury of 4 if all 4 of them are alive. If all 4 of them are alive, you can spend Fury on all of them in any one of them, and then that Fury goes on to the unit leader, assuming you're in command range, which is command of 4. They do have to stay very close to each other. They feel a little bit like grotesques that way, but we'll get into how bad grotesques are later. So they feel a little bit like grotesque that way. They have to stay very close to each other. But they're beasts, so they don't actually take terror checks. So you can do some of the neat tricks you do with, say, undead animals or undead infantry, where you have the unit leader charge way out and do something, and then when he dies, promote a unit leader back with the rest of them and carry on with your life. So they're great. They are great for that. Their animus, I don't see a lot of situations where I would use it. Uh, but maybe I'm just not seeing it. This is one that I'd have to see on the table. It's called Overwhelm. It costs 2. It's range 6, so something else can put it on them. It affects an entire Warbeast pack, which is great. You don't have to put it on them individually, and it gives them the same ability that Gerlach Slaughterborn has. Whenever a model in the unit kills an enemy, one or more enemy models with a melee attack during its combat action, so not as a free strike, then after that attack is resolved, the model can move up to an inch and make one additional melee attack. It sounds like what these guys would do is just mow through entire swaths of infantry, and wouldn't that be fantastic? But the problem there is command 4. So one of them makes a couple of attacks, and then if he were to advance any further, is out of command. And then another one makes an attack, and if he's any further, he's out of command. Combine that with the fact that they have a built-in ability called Annoyance, or sorry, not Annoyance, Hunting Pack, which is each one of them gains a cumulative +1 bonus to hit and damage rolls, melee attack and damage rolls, for each other model in the unit engaging the model it's attacking. So they start out as Mat 5 P plus S8, and if you put all 4 of them into the same target, then they go all the way up to a Mat 8 P plus S11, which is actually significantly more useful. But they're non-reach, and if one of them kills that model and then moves an inch away, all of a sudden he's not engaging something with the rest of the pack, and he's not benefiting from that bonus. So there's a little bit of scornergy going on there. Instead of Overwhelm, if they had the animus that the Scorn Pack has, which is after they move, you can have something else at range 6 cast dig in onto them, then their survivability issues would be less of a problem. You'd be able to get them up the table. It'd be a much more useful animus. The quote unquote offensive animus that they have feels to me like a waste. It's possible that if they had a defensive animus that could get them up there, as good as our faction is with Beast, they would just be completely over the top. I don't playtest. My guess would be that that's what they found in playtesting, but be that as it may. They have Flight, which is great. Covered that before. They have Crit Poison on their melee attack, and then they have Annoyance, which is the same rule that Whelps have, which is living enemy models within an inch of the model suffer -1 to all their attack rolls. So they can be kind of cool that way. So in melee, they're functionally Death 13 against non-reach living enemy models, which is kind of meh. So anyway, Blight Wasps, I need to see them on the table. I think they're one of those things. They are FAU, so I think they're one of those things that you're probably going to use en masse or not at all. But again, I could be wrong. I look forward to trying them on the table, but I haven't had a chance yet. I haven't even proxied them yet. Got a couple questions from the Twitch feed. Andy, hello. A couple questions from the Twitch feed. I don't know, Fake Gang with no reach seems to be a weakness too. Yeah, I don't disagree. Do I think Beast Packs will get UAs? I don't think they will. I think that they may get boosted by other Beast Packs being released that have cool animi for them. Andy says hi. I think you were waving off camera. You probably were. I do not know where your glasses are, sorry. So maybe they'll get another Beast Pack Animus. Maybe we'll just get some kind of cool thing that affects Beast Packs. I think it would be more likely to get something akin to Una or like a lesser Warlock that somehow benefited Beast Packs rather than a UA. A UA just feels like a really weird place for them, but I could be wrong. All right, so Bread and Butter Beast is the next, the Carnivian. Lupus says hi, Andy. Hopefully, those of you that are listening to the audio are enjoying this as well. The idea with the Twitch feed is, A, my descent into madness is well documented for anyone that happens to be watching, but also just having people to bounce ideas off of and people to remind me when I miss things is kind of cool. So, Carnivian, Bread and Butter Beast, Speed 6, Mat 6. He has Rat 4, but that's because he has a spray, which I'll get into in a minute. Def 11, Arm 18, again, our standard heavy defensive stats. Pathfinder, Eyeless Sight. So far, okay. For 11 points, you'd be pretty disappointed if that was all he brought to the table. So, what else does he bring to the table? He has a Spray 10, POW 14 ranged attack, which is fire typed. All of our ranged attacks, except 2 exceptions, which I will name when we get to them, are fire type. So things that are immune to fire, like Gorman, who can go die in a fire. I fucking hate that guy. Except he can't die in a fire because he's immune to it. Gorman's a real problem. Efior is a real problem. We just can't shoot at them. So something to bear in mind with most of Legion. So he's got a Spray 10, POW 14, which is great already. He also has Assault. So he's a beast that when he charges assaults, also gets a spray 10 at Rat 4 that's boostable. It's amazing. I cannot over exaggerate how much work I've gotten done out of that spray in different situations. So it's fantastic. It's amazing. No complaints there. He has 3 initials, a POW 18 and 2 open fist POW 16s. The 18, until the Archangel came along, was the highest POW melee in faction. Again, nothing to complain about. Fantastic. Love it. We have a couple of ways to boost it, but in general, POW 18 gets work done great. He's got Soulless, which all our beasts appear to have. He's got Blood, just something I've never really thought about one or the other. Blood Creation, again, he doesn't frenzy on our casters. Again, we all of our beasts have that. And then his Animus, which is just the icing on the cake, which is Spiny Growth. Cost 2, range 6, target friendly faction needs +2 armor. Great already. In addition, if a Warjack or Warbeast hits the affected model with a melee attack, then after the attack is fully resolved, if it doesn't kill you, you do D3 damage points to them in return. So what this means is somebody comes in with, let's pick a fictitious situation that would never happen, like a Stalker. So a Stalker comes in and attacks you with its sword, and you're like, ouch, that really hurt. I'm armor 20, but he's POW 20, so that really tickled because it was like primaled and free and boosted and ouch. So he does a lot of damage to you, and you do 3 damage back to him, or D3. And then he hits you again, and you do D3 back, and he hits you again, and you do D3 back, and he hits you again, and maybe you die because you're a Legion Beast. But you've done roughly 3d3 worth of damage to him. It's shocking how often that makes it just trivial to kill that beast. And in the rare situation, well, I guess depending on the game state, not that rare. In the situation where they come in with an already wounded beast, the fact that they have to live with the risk of one attack in the right column, one attack back at them in the right column, crippling their spirit, crippling their mind, crippling their body, on a Warjack, crippling the cortex, crippling their weapon arm, is amazing. I cannot overstate how good this Animus is. If there was any way to make it cost 1, I think it would probably break our faction. It would probably be just ridiculously good. So even at 2 cost, it's well worth it. So he casts it almost every turn, unless he really, really needs to do some heavy work. Your caster's probably going to cast it once, and then he's a great reason to bring our caster attachment, which when we get to her, I will explain how she works. The succubus, for those who are wondering. All right, so Carnivean, great beast. Don't leave home without one. I would say that there have certainly been many tournaments I've gone to where I did not have a Carnivean in either list. I usually regret not having one in either list. 11-18 as a standard stat line for a beast, which again we play very beast heavy, is tough to work with against some factions. If you don't have a way to boost it, and we do have another one later that I'm going to get to, the Shredder, but the Carnivean really, really, really makes his money. Nephilim doesn't have Soulless or Blood Spawned. All right, good to go. You need Nephilim to push your caster 2. I'm not really sure what that's supposed to mean. So hopefully Incure, yep, will verify for us what that was supposed to mean. Then we've got a couple of League models, which I'm going to skip. Then we get into our first Lesser. So until recently, Lessers were unique to Legion. They're great. Lessers, at least thus far in the game, have a few things always in common. They're always on a small base. They always cost 2 points. And at least as far as I can tell, they always have roughly 13 boxes. All the Legion ones have 13. I believe that the Minion one also has 13 boxes. I have no idea how many boxes the Razorhound has, because the other thing I forgot to mention when we were covering the Archangel is his Bite has Consume, which means every time you hit a small base model, it's RFP'd. And that's usually what I use to kill the Scorn Lessers, quite frankly. The couple of games I've played against the Scorn Lessers, I happen to be playing an Archangel, and it's just amazing against them. Okay, so the Harrier costs 2. He is speed 7, mat 5, which is not a problem, which I'll explain in a second why. Doesn't have a gun, so don't care about his rat. He is def 14, armor 12, which is great on a light beast. He has 13 boxes, and then he's got a POW 10 melee attack, no non-reach. So threatens 10.5 inches. So far seems okay. What makes him over the top is his Animus. His Animus costs 1. It's range stealth, because otherwise it'd be way too good. And the next melee attack roll made by this model, this activation, automatically hits. And then True Strike expires, which means this guy is a god at killing solos. Do you have a solo within 10.5 inches of this model? I will charge. Before I charge, I will cast my Animus. So for 2 Fury, which is his max Fury, he will charge 10.5 inches. Then he will automatically hit you, and then he will roll a boosted POW 10 damage roll on you, which fucks up most solos in the game. It's amazing. It's fantastic. Love these guys. Don't always fit them into my list, but I do love them very, very much. Oh yeah, theoretically, if you did a push power attack with a Nephilim, then you would have to worry about it frenzying on your caster, I suppose. Can't do it with blood create. Oh! I see what he's getting at. Okay, what Incure was trying to point out is blood creation says that it never attacks a friendly faction warlock and cannot choose them as a frenzy target, which is a good point. That means it cannot do a push power attack on your caster. So if for some reason you need your caster to get that extra inch, Nephilim can't do it. Thanks, or only the Nephilim can do it because they're the only ones that aren't blood creations. So good point. yeah. When we get to the pot, we'll explain how to make a Harry even better than it already starts out as. So anyway, on top of the fact that he's a solo murdering machine, once at the end of this model's activation, if it destroyed one or more enemy models with melee attacks this activation, it can make a full advance. So what you do is you post this guy right near the edge of your caster's control area, or at least somewhat near it. They bring a solo foolishly within a 10-inch radius of this beast, which is, a significant portion of the playing surface of the board. You animus before it goes in, you charge, and you go in, you fuck up that guy, and then you move back 7 inches towards your caster, so your caster just has to move 3 inches or maybe less, depending on where it was in your control area, to get him back into control for the next turn, pull that Fury off, and then go to town again the next turn. I think it would be interesting to see an army of Harriers. While we have fantastic Fury management in our solos, I don't think we have quite enough to make that work, but Harriers are amazing at killing infantry, especially solos. They will always make their money back against solos, in my opinion. So, Harrier, fantastic beast. All right, next. The Naga Night Lurker. All right, this guy straight up single-handedly made one of our casters, Epic Lilith, infinitely more competitive than she was previously. She had some real problem matchups prior to the Naga coming out, which, in my opinion, are mostly fixed because of the Naga. I love Epic Lilith. She's my girl, and Nagas straight up are amazing with her. So, what does the Naga do that's so amazing? Well, it has a gun and a melee attack, non-reach melee. Its gun is magical by default, which is very, very rare in Legion. We have very few magical attacks. Its gun is not fire type, so it can kill Gorman. It can shoot at Ephiora. It can shoot at anything the Pyrotroll Animus is on. God damn that beast, by the way. I fucking hate playing against the Animus. Sorry, had to booze up there for a moment. He has Pathfinder. He has Eyeless Sight. All the things you want going on. He's fantastic. So, Speed 6, pretty standard. He's Def 13, Armor 15, which in my opinion on a light is way better than higher armor with lower defense, just because he doesn't have as many boxes. He has 19 boxes. Mat 5, Rat 6, which again, very unusual for a Legion beast to have more Rat than Mat, or to have Rat 6, either one. And Rat 6 is fantastic on him. His gun is range 10, POW 12, and it gets work done. It is a fantastic weapon. He has the Serpentine rule, which means he cannot make slam or trample power attacks and cannot be knocked down. I find that Legion very rarely makes slam or trample power attacks, quite frankly. It just doesn't come up as often as you'd think it would in our faction. And the not being knocked down is amazing. Angelius also has the Serpentine rule. Way back at the Angelius, I forgot to mention that. I'm not apparently reading very well, so what have you. He has the Soulless and Blood Creation rules. He has Prowl, which means while he is within terrain that provides concealment, the AoE of a spell that provides concealment, or the AoE of a cloud effect. Thank you for that redundancy. Rules Writers, he has Stealth. So Stealth is great. If you get him into a cloud or a forest, fantastic. Yippee, he has Stealth. No, I don't want you to open up his special rules. Thank you, War Room. He's 3 Fury, pretty standard for a light. His ranged attack is Crit Poison, which a ranged attack with Crit Poison that is boostable is amazing. I really can't oversell how good this beast is. He's amazing. And then on top of all of that, his melee attack has Crit Shadowbind, which if he hits you in melee, you're -3 defense, and you can only advance. You can only change your facing. Otherwise, you can't advance other than to change your facing. It's Eat Any's Feet for those of you that care. Amazing. And one of my favorite things about it is late game where they're down to a couple of key heavies. You put this guy in the back arc of a heavy. You just run him there, and you just say, "Go ahead. Maybe you'll get to charge my heavy. Maybe I will Shadowbind you and you'll lose your activation and you'll cry. I'm willing to take that chance. Are you?" And then they've got this beast that's Def 13 base, that's engaged with their beast, that's a pain in the ass to get out of the way, and it's late game, they have less pieces. I mean, this guy, he's amazing. And he only costs 5 points. I would easily pay 6 points for this beast. At 5 points, he is a steal. So, fantastic beast. Naga Night Lurker. Honestly and truly, if you're a Legion player and you don't own at least one, you have a problem. Okay, haven't even talked about his Animus, which might be the best thing about him. He's amazing for 5 points without his Animus. With his Animus, I might even, like, realistically, if they had released him at 7 points, I'd probably still play one. His Animus costs 2, range 6. Target friendlies, factions, models, weapons, both ranged and melee, become magical and blessed. Blessed! So you get these armor stacking lists, which Lilith hated to see until this came out. Or somebody that's got, somebody like Vlad 2, who's got the, what is it called? Not Razor Wind, but the spell where you can't shoot at them except with magical weapons. I apologize. Don't remember the name of the spell right now. Just shut down Lilith. Just shut her down hard. Now we're or Menoth Jacks that have passage on them, which is also a problem. Now you have Wraithbane for a cost of 2, or your caster casting it, or caster attachment casting it, or however you cast it. You put this on a Ravagore, and he doesn't care about your armor buffs. He doesn't care about whatever spells you've got out there. He doesn't care that he has to have a magical weapon to hit you, and he just fucks you up under Lilith's feet. The Animus is a game changer for Legion. We, outside of one specific caster, have a massive problem with defensive buffs on opponents' models, and this guy just fixes it. I would not go so far as to say he's 5 points that should be in every list, the way, for instance, 2 sets of stones and a shifting stone UA should just be in every circle list. A lot of circle players say that. I don't disagree. That is pretty damn good. He has 5 points that if you don't have a good reason, should be in every list. Maybe that good reason is you're playing Epic Veil. Maybe that good reason is the list you've built can't handle defensive animi and buffs anyway, and it's a huge problem. Okay, don't bring a Naga. If those two things aren't true, you should probably sincerely consider bringing a Naga. Thank you. Somebody reminded me that the spell that stops non-magical shooting is Wind Wall. That is correct. So, Vlad 2 spell. All right, so Naga Night Lurker, fantastic beast. We have amazing beasts. As good as Crick's infantry is, our beasts are that good at beasts. They really are. I would say there's probably 2 beasts in the game that Legion is in any way jealous of, in my opinion. And they're the Bronzeback, which is, I think we can all agree, an amazing beast, and Tiberian, which, again, I think we can all agree is an amazing beast. And even those, if they were in Legion, they'd be better. Like, they just would. So, all right, next beast. I'm going to top up on booze again real quick. Okay, so the next beast is one that I own. I proxied it a couple of times. I haven't figured this guy out yet. So I can't figure out what he's trying to do. It's the Nephilim Bloodseer. He doesn't have the ability where he can't target our caster, so he can push you, as somebody said earlier. He's speed 6, mat 5, which is a little unfortunate because he's a melee beast. Def 12, armor 18, which is great. I have no complaints about his defensive stat line. And he has a reach POW 12 melee attack, which is okay. The Nephilim tend to be somewhat underpowered. It's part of why a lot of people don't play them, because they're light beasts. Cost 5, which is the same cost as a Naga. Really have trouble taking this guy over a Naga, but we'll get into his special is. Fury 3, which is the standard light beast loadout for Legion. His Animus is Witchblight, so cost 2, range self. When an enemy model casts a spell within 5 inches of the model, increase the cost by 1. Also, enemy models cannot upkeep spells on models within 5 inches of this model. So, I guess you shove them up in, like, really close into their face and make them lose their Animus, their upkeepable spells, and be unable to cast spells. Excuse me. Seems very, very situational. I guess it could be really, really good against, I'm trying to think, a Retribution Army run by Ron. So you could get close and make Polarity Shield have to get dropped, which is great. You can keep Battle Mages from casting spells if they're within 5 inches of you, which is great. I don't know. For 2 cost on a 3 Fury Beast, I really have trouble justifying that particular animi. So, am I jealous of Malak Karn? He's a great beast. I'm not saying he's not a fantastic beast, but at the end of the day, I would have trouble fitting Malak Karn in with some of the other beasts we already take. Maybe he would just straight up replace like a Scythian, which is possible, but the Scythian has RFP and Malak Karn doesn't. So, in response to one of our questions on Twitch here. So the other thing that the Nephilim Bloodseer does is he's got telemetry, which is on a few things at this point, I think. Other friendly faction models get +2 to magic attack rolls against enemy models that are within 5 inches of this model. So again, driving home he wants to be up in the face of the army. Primal magic, he can use the animuses of any friendly faction non-character war beast. So that Carnivean animus, that's amazing. That Angelius animus that pushes things that are within 3 inches of you, 2 inches away. Like there's certainly situations where that ability could be very, very awesome. Unfortunately, they have to be in his command range of 8. So he has to stay kind of close to the rest of your army, but for control area of your warlock, maybe he does anyway. So maybe that's not a problem. He's got flight, which is great. Not all the Nephilim do, so it's nice to see that. And he has brutal charge, so on the charge attack, his gap does go up to a POW 14. He's not terrible. Somebody mentioned the super repulse list. Yeah, there's a list running around that's I want to say it's 2 Angeliuses and 3 Nephilim Bloodseers. So you have 5 model, not counting your caster, that can cast the animus that pushes things from within 3 inches of you, 2 inches away. And the goal of the list is just everybody out of the zone, I score the zone. Everybody out of the zone, I score the zone. Everybody out of the zone, I score the zone, I win. It's the theory. Not a list I'm interested in playing, but it's definitely valid. I know Travis, who's we talk about a lot, and is one of the semi-local, he's not a PG anymore, I guess he's a judge now. But anyway, Travis has talked about that list, and I know he's excited to run it. I don't know, for 5 points, it just doesn't fill that niche for me. Not when the Naga costs 5 points, not when I can take several other things in that point cost that are really, really amazing in Legion. Like, it just doesn't make my lists. It's just how it is. So somebody said they have a buddy that runs 6 of them. His animus removes things like crippling grasp and black spot. Sure, I guess they can't upkeep them, but they're more than 5 inches away, so they can cast them on you again. So they fall off, and then they recast them because their caster's more than 5 inches away. Because it doesn't prevent targeting within 5 inches, it prevents casting within 5 inches. It is nice to see all the activity on the Twitch stream, by the way. I'm glad you guys are enjoying this, even though I'm only seeing comments from 2 or 3 people. Hopefully there's more people that are enjoying the Twitch feed, because it's only 45 minutes into the descent into madness. So, all right, so Nephilim Bolt Thrower. Until the Naga came out, this was the only guy with a non-fire type gun in the faction. He saw a ton of play because of that, specifically in Epic Lilith, but in other places too. In my opinion, at cost 6, the Naga strictly outclasses him. Now, there are ways that he's better, and I'll cover those. But for my lists, when I could take a Naga at 5 or him at 6, I just always take a Naga at 5. It's just, to me, it's just the way it works. It's why I own multiple Nagas. I have considered a list where I take 2 Nagas and 2 of him for an Epic Lilith list that just has a bunch of light guns. Seems like it could be pretty valid. I haven't had a chance to put it on the table yet, so I don't know. We'll see. All right, so the Bolt Thrower, standard speed 6. He is unfortunately Mat 5, not our standard Mat 6. He is Rat 5, which is standard. Depth 13, Armor 16. Not awesome. The Depth 13 you'd think would be enough, but at Armor 16 and the number of boxes he has, which I'm going to real quick, 5, 7, 5, 8, 5, 7, so he's 22 boxes. At 22 boxes, 13, 16 just doesn't really survive against anything useful. It just doesn't, which is fine. He's a light beast. That's just how it is. So, man, I'm not drinking nearly enough booze. 45 minutes in, and I'm only finishing my first cup. All right, so stats are fine. I wish he was Mat 6 instead of Mat 5, but he's a gun beast, and he's our standard Rat 5, so great. Standard Fury 3, fantastic. His gun is actually longer range and higher POW than the Naga. He's range 12, POW 14. The Naga is range 10, POW 12. He does not have crit poison on his gun, however, the way the Naga does. So while you can't count on crits, and I would never suggest you strategize to count on crits, crits happen enough with the Naga that I don't feel that lack of the extra 2 points of power unless I'm going up against something non-living, because poison only triggers against living. So, for instance, like against a Colossal, this guy, I would say his niche, where he's definitely better than Naga, is against a Colossal. Except, if you take him instead of a Naga, you don't have access to the Blessed Animus, and you know what most Colossals usually have? Defensive buffs. So, all of a sudden, that 2 power looking a little bit less exciting. Having the same thoughts on clock. Oh, do a shot of Kraken. Can't decide if watching in the UK and clocks changing tonight will be good or bad for this. Shot of Kraken. It'll be fine. The government gave us an extra hour to watch this. Well, I'm glad that the British government is supporting and subsidizing our Legion episode. All right, that was the sound. For those of you that are just listening to the audio, that was the sound of my cup emptying out. So I'm going to refill. I have never actually had Kraken. Manoth John of Painting with Manoth John fame is always talking about the stuff. He loves it. Goes on and on about it. Does shots of it on air. Not really a shot guy myself. I like mixing my booze with soda because mixing uppers and downers, any good doctor will tell you, is a fantastic idea and you should do it all the time. So I am going to try a little Kraken and Coke and see if it can measure up to the gloriousness that is Kilo Kai. Thus far, I have not found anything that I like more than Kilo Kai, but haven't had Kraken, so a little sniff. The smell of Kraken is appealing and pleasing. I am not unhappy with the way it smells. I'm going to give a nice helping of Kraken there, help out my descent into madness a little bit. All right, put the lid back on. Sorry for those of you in audio land. I'm sure this is a little less exciting to listen to, but I did bring 2 liters of Coke and a lot of booze, so there will be refilling of cups going on throughout the evening until I just get completely sloshed. Somebody's creeping the stream from Canada. Half a bottle vanished the other night. Apparently, several people also like Kraken. Maybe they also learned about it from Painting with Menoth John. All right, so let's give this a quick try. Smells good. It's tasty. It definitely goes down fairly easy. I like it. I don't think I like it more than Kilo Kai. I think Cool Kerr from Springfield is still the winner with his Kilo Kai recommendation, which is my new favorite rum. But there is nothing wrong with Kraken. It is also delicious, and I also recommend it. So, where was I? The Nephilim Bolt Thrower, correct. So, the Nephilim Bolt Thrower also has a PS12 melee attack. Great. He doesn't have Pathfinder or Flight. I know those of you that play any other faction at all are like, what's the big deal? Lots of things don't have Flight or Pathfinder. Bullshit. This is Legion. Rules are for pussies. We have Flight or we have Pathfinder, and we just don't give any shits about terrain. He does have Eyeless Sight, so at least he ignores some rules. Great. Good for him. It's not quite 50-50 Coke and Kraken. It's probably like 20-80, with the 20 being Kraken, but it's pretty tasty. Okay, so he just doesn't have Flight. I can't. My other faction is Rhett. Rhett hates rough terrain. They're terrible at it. Outside of Strike Force, which are great, but outside of Strike Force, they have a serious, serious problem with terrain and dealing with it. They can't take Rupert, so they can't even help out their infantry with terrain that way. They can't take Saxon Orcs, so they can't help with their infantry that way. They have a huge, huge problem with terrain. So that was my first faction, and I moved to Legion, and I was like, this is amazing. This is amazing. I don't even care. Every table, the more terrain you put on the table, the better it gets for me. Outside of walls are a little bit of our kryptonite, but outside of a wall, just everything makes us better. Put a building, great. We'll fly over it, and we'll fuck you up from behind. Put a forest. We're going to sit behind it, and we're going to shoot you, and then when you get in the forest and get all stuck in, we're going to charge in and get you, and then if we're a Harrier, we're going to just flippy flap away. It's going to be amazing. We love terrain. Terrain is fantastic for us. This guy doesn't have Flight or Pathfinder. What the fuck? So he has an Animus that gives him Flight, right? Great. For 1 cost at range self of his 3 Fury, he can have Flight. So he can be a 2 Fury Legion Beast, or he can be a 3 Fury normal Beast. Sorry. Just collect myself for a moment. It's going to be all right. So, what is the advantage to taking this guy? He costs 6 points for a POW 14 gun, which is great with Epic Lilith. Fantastic. Love it. His gun has Thunderbolt, which enemy models hit are pushed D3 directly away. It sounds great, but I actually fucked myself out of an Epic Lilith assassination run by pushing the enemy the full D3 inches before. He does knock them down on a crit hit, which is great, and I've definitely used it. It's fantastic. It's one of the only ways from range to knock down a target in the faction. So he is really good with Epic Lilith, but you got to be really careful with the Thunderbolt. And he doesn't have Flight or Pathfinder. Janissa, the Bane of Legion. So it's a problem. It's an Animus that seems like it would be amazing, except it's range self, so it's not like you can put it on like key infantry. And you may not need to cast it every turn, but the turns where there's terrain, which with Legion, you get used to being like, there's this forest. I'm going to base my strategy around this forest, because every other faction in the game cares about this forest, and I don't, so tactically I have an advantage. And he just gets in the way of that whole strategy. Now, there are a couple of our casters that really, really like having access to this Flight Animus. Rias would be one of them. Rias can go die in a fire. That whore is a terrible caster. I know there are people that have made her work. I know that there are people that really like her. That's nice. Every other caster in our faction is better than Rias. People tell me how terrible Gunbjorn is in Trolls, and I don't disagree. Gunbjorn's a pretty terrible caster. In my opinion, compared to the power level of our casters, Rias is worse than the average power level of Legion casters by more than Gunbjorn is below the level of the average Troll caster. My opinion, not everyone agrees. Great. Rias is a shitty, shitty ninja. Her biggest problem is that her natural enemy is anything rough terrain, so the Animus is great. I know I'm on a little bit of a diatribe here, but Rias also only has 5 Fury, so it's the same problem as this fucking Bolt Thrower. She can't afford to cast the fucking Animus. It's a huge problem. So, great. The Thagroshes already have flight, so they don't need the Animus, so Saren is not interested in flying up into your melee face. It's just not how she rolls. Neither are either of the Veils. So, I guess Abby 1, except she can give it to herself, or Abby 2, who already has flight. You get my point. Now that the Naga, before the Naga existed, this guy filled a niche at 6 points, good gun, Epic Lilith loves him, we love him as a gun beast. Then the Naga came out, and this guy went in my bag, and I don't think I have played him since. Like, the Naga just outclasses him, in my opinion. So, anyway, I got a little worked up there. My feelings about the Nephilim Bolt Thrower, I've shared with other people. Some people who are very good Legion players disagree with me 100%. Alex Schaefer of Clockwork Vox very much loves her. He was the one that gave me that I actually saw run 3 Bolt Throwers and 2 Nagas in a Lilith list and do really, really well with it. My question to him was, why not 5 Nagas? That was my question. I stand by that question. So, same problem with the Banshee. Yeah, Gunbjorn stock going up. Wait until you get Rias and Saren as a Warlock unit. Actually, that is something so I'm not much of a fluff bunny, but I have read the Legion fluff because I think the Legion fluff is pretty badass. The reason I got into this faction wasn't because they're OP. They are. But because I like elves that murder the world. And there are a lot of elves in Legion. There's a lot of elves in Ret, obviously, which is why I started with Ret. And I really like the bad guy vibe of Legion. I'm not really into the undead thing, so Crix doesn't do it for me, but I really like the vibe of Legion. So I've read most of their fluff. Rias and an epic Rias Saren Warlock unit would be amazing. I don't know if it would be playable. It could be just unplayable trash. Great. It would be a really, really cool idea. I would love to see that. And I agree that that would be amazing. That was Lucas Farias that pointed out. But it's something I've said before off air that I think that would be amazing. So, okay, Nephilim Protector. The Nephilim, by the way, are a whole series of beasts. They're all lights, except for we got a new character Nephilim, which we'll get to very, very late because his name is Zuriel. The Nephilim Protector is my favorite of the Nephilims outside of Zuriel. So he actually fills a niche. My feeling is that the other Nephilim don't fill a niche that's needed anymore. The Bolt Thrower used to, doesn't anymore. Somebody said they're going to disagree with me about the tariff. I actually like the tariff, which is weird, I know, but we'll talk about that. So anyway, Nephilim Protector. He's speed 6. He is also not Pathfinder, which is a huge pain in the ass. He doesn't even have access to flight the way that the Nephilim Bolt Thrower does. Meh, shit happens. Mat 5 on a melee beast, very disappointing. All the Nephilim's attack stat is Mat 5, except for the character. So, meh, again, something you live with. Def 12, armor 18, and he has set defense. So, he has pretty good defensive stats per light, in my opinion. Because usually what's often going to get into him is a unit of infantry, and set defense does wonders in that case. Why I love him, he is a shield guard in Legion, which the stream will correct me if I say this I'm wrong, but I believe he is the only shield guard available to Legion. The reason we care is because the Spiny Growth Animus on the Carnivean and the Tenacity Animus on the Shredder, which we've not gotten to yet, are the way we make our beast survive. Epic Eris is a cunt and likes to shoot our beast and strip off those animi, and then, they throw wet paper towels at our beast and they die. So having a shield guard that just says, I'm going to just stand 3 inches behind this beast, and whenever Epic Eris shoots at him, I'm going to give her the big middle finger, is amazing for us. So, Protector as a shield guard, fantastic. Somebody already said on the stream he's great with Ethags, which is true because Ethags is on a huge base and has a real problem with death by shooting. Also has a real problem with getting. He usually puts spiny growth onto himself or has it put onto him, and again getting that stripped, huge problem for him. So Shield Guard, fantastic. Empathic Transference, unique ability in Legion. It is on some other beasts. Hammer Hands and Circle, the big fisty looking fucker, the stone guy from Circle also has this ability, which is even when he's full on Fury, he can be transferred to. Empathic Transference is an ability that doesn't come up that often, but this guy's designed to be a backfield beast. He's designed to last into the end game, and he does. And I have played a lot of games where he's my last beast. Being able to force him to the full 3 and still transfer to him is huge when he's your only beast. Huge. So, don't stand 3, stand 2. Oh, right. Stand within 2 for Shield Guard. Thank you. Sorry. I've been drinking. Somebody on the stream just reminded me Shield Guard's within 2 inches, which is true story. I would have remembered if I'd actually read the ability that says 2 inches right there on the card. Look at that. Okay, so Shield Guard, great. Empathic Transference, great. Set Defense, useful ability. POW 12, Mat 5, meh. He's not going to get a ton of work done in melee. He's just not. I use him. It's a boostable Mat 5, kill some infantry. I have used it. Usually he's backfield, so if he's killing something, it's because they jammed something up on my front line. He goes up, whacks it with his reach gaff, and goes, okay, buddy, go do work. And then his buddy goes and does work. So it's great. It's fine. His offensive output is not why you take him. His Animist feeds right into the don't worry, boss, I got this defensively. It is Safeguard. Safeguard. Oh, my God. So this guy, I'm going to sideline just a little bit. Saren loves to just crush Crix. When they designed Saren, they were like, so we designed Rias, and she's shitty at everything. Let's design Saren so that she makes an entire faction shit its pants when you put her on the table. She's amazing. Jeremy got something wrong. Everyone take a shot. That would be an amazing drinking game, and you would get trashed, because the drunker I get, the drunker you all get. Okay, so Saren, natural enemy, Crix. She loves it. I'm going to get into more details about her, but those of you that already know what Saren does, you know why she gives Crix the big middle finger, because she's amazing at it. So, she destroys almost single-handedly with her abilities almost every single caster in Crix. She just says, nope, you suck, and you're going to die now. However, P. Denny, or Denny1, depending on how you want to name her, has this spell called Scourge. And Saren's got this real bad problem where she comes down with a case of dead if she falls over. So, this guy goes in all my Saren lists. He just does. He stands within 2 inches of Saren, so she can't be shot at, because P. Denny likes to bring guns, or at least so he can take one big shot away. He puts Safeguard on her, and Safeguard is cannot be knocked down. When you're slammed, reduce the slam distance by 3, which doesn't come up as often as you'd think it would. And then it lasts for a round. And so he puts Safeguard on her. He's within 2 inches, so I don't even think Crix can take Epic Eris, but let's say we're in a world where they could somehow take her. You can't strip the Animus, or some other caster that's got Scourge, because there are a couple others. So you can't strip her Animus of Safeguard because he's there to stop that shot. And then when you go to hit her with Scourge, you're like, okay, you hit me. Or you probably didn't, and it drifted, but Scourge knocks down on the drift because it's an unfair spell. Okay, I don't care. I take the power damage. You can't knock me down. Go fuck yourself. And then P. Denny gets real sad. I have been in multiple tournaments where somebody will walk up to the table. I'll be playing Saren versus P. Denny, and 2 or 3 people will walk up to the table, and I'll hear him going, Twitter. And I'll be like, he can't kill me. And they'll be like, Twitter. He still can't kill me. Twitter. I have Safeguard on my caster. And they all go, oh, right. And they all just leave. They're like, well, that was going to be fun. We were going to watch Jeremy die, because everyone's favorite thing to do is watch me die to Saren, or watch me die to Crix. Nope, not going to happen with Safeguard on her. Not against P. Denny anyway. Highly unlikely. So, anyway, Nephilim Protector, fantastic beast. Really good with some of our casters. And again, when I go through the casters, I'm going to be highlighting some of my favorite things to take with each of them. So, the next Nephilim. So, Nephilim Bolt Thrower used to have a great position. Nephilim Protector has a great role in the army. Nephilim Soldier, I don't know what he does. I mean, I know what he does. I have his card in front of me. I don't know why you'd ever take one. I own one because I own one of everything in the faction. I even own our fucking light artillery, which is trash. But I just... I don't see it. So let me run through what he's got. Speed 6, standard. He is Mat 6. He's the Nephilim with Mat 6. So, yay. He has a reach weapon, which is PS 14. Def 13, Armor 16, which is the standard Nephilim stat line. Fury 3, standard. Cost 5. Again, outside the bolt thrower, they cost 5. So, okay. So he's So he's POW 14, Mat 6, which is okay. Except we have heavies that do the job way better. And in my opinion, one of the things that Legion does really well is directing lots of force to a single location. And so I'd rather have a heavy with 4 Fury and power 18 or 17 than 2 of him at Fury 3 and POW 14. I just would. It just is the way the faction works in my mind. He has flight, so thank God he's an actual Legion beast. Great. And his Animus is Massacre. So minion players, pig players specifically, have been making use of Massacre for a really long time. It's cost 2, range 6. The target model gets to charge without being forced, and if it destroys an enemy model with the charge attack, it may then advance an inch and make an additional melee attack, which feels great because you're paying 2 on something else to effectively give a second model an extra fury because they charge for free, and maybe 2 extra fury if they kill something on the charge and then make another attack. The fact is, you just don't wind up casting Massacre a lot because we have such great defensive animi, and they're all pretty much all range 6. You kind of have to get them on there before you send the beast in. So unless you have a very, very specific plan, it's very hard to send that beast in without its defensive animi because then they're more trivial than I would like them to be to kill, unfortunately. So, things, excitement, reading. Somebody might be more drunk than I am on the Twitch feed. So, anyway, Massacre is okay, and it's how pig players get shit done. Like, I have other ways to get shit done in Legion. I just do. Frankly, it's great. Thanks. I'm glad we have access to it. Maybe someday I'll come up with a list where it's amazing. I haven't yet. I've put him on the table a couple of times, and I've never been super thrilled by him. So that's me. Other people maybe get more mileage out of him. I have yet to see the thread or article or forum post where JVM tells me that I made a Nephilim soldier amazing, and it's what makes the faction now. Maybe he has figured that out. If so, I have yet to see it. I've seen JVM play a lot of things, and I've reevaluated some of my positions on those things after seeing him play them on the table. I have never seen him do anything with a Nephilim soldier that makes me think the Nephilim soldier is amazing. Okay, so moving past the Nephilim, we now move to another one of our new Exigence beasts. So, by the way, I just want to point out, I do have Exigence, the hardcover book, courtesy of Andy. Andy owns all the books. And Andy's plan was for me to go through each of the books in order. My mind doesn't work that way, and so I'm using more room. But the books are amazing. I agree that the fluff is not amazing. Those of you that have said that in the past, it's pretty true. The fluff is not written by masters of the fiction universe. It's just not. The pictures are really cool, though. For some very small subset of the models, the tactical tips are actually super important because, as it turns out, some of the rules in the game that are unique on certain models aren't worded super well. Very rarely, but like the Starburst cannon for the Ret Colossal comes to mind. The tactical tip is like, no, really, if you crit hit, everything under the AoE that's a small base just gets RFP'd. A lot of people don't believe me until I show them that tactical tip. So the tactical tips are handy. The fluff is meh. But the pictures are cool, and I enjoy reading the books. I will probably eventually buy Exigence. I will buy it softcover because I just don't care about the extra cost for the hardcover. But I'm not going to go through them all on this podcast because the War Room just makes more sense to me as a system for going through things. You can use him in P-Thag. Oh, somebody has a possible use for the Nephilim soldier. You can use him in P-Thags, kinda. Just there are loads of better things. Right, exactly. You could put the Animus on a throne. Sure. Well, can you? I'm going to just double check here. Doesn't it say beast? No, target-friendly model can charge without being forced. So the forcing isn't an issue for the throne, but it kind of gets an extra attack? Question mark? Meh. Yeah, it's kind of okay-ish. Yeah, I don't know. Anyway, so the Nephilim soldier, I don't see it, but it's fine. We have lots of other amazing things, and frankly, if every model in the game were amazing, then nothing would be. It turns out if everything's amazing, it's all mediocre. So, having some things that remind you how good the other things are is fine. Okay, so the Neref. The Neref is a cost 7 heavy. I want to start with that because I feel like it's very important. Cost 7 heavies are good. They just are. Uh, it has some things that I would like to see be a little bit different, but it is a cost 7 heavy with Fury 4. So it's not all bad. I plan to find a list for it. I own one. It was actually being painted by Travis, who I mentioned earlier, until this last weekend, and so I hadn't bothered to proxy it because I was like, I knew I'd be getting it back soon. So I'll be trying it out in a list. I don't know what list. My concern with the Nerif is that in order to be really good, it's possible you need to spam them, like take 3 for 21 points instead of 2 heavies. And I'm just not going to buy that many Nerifs. They take up a lot of room in the foam, and like unless I find a list that's like that's amazing, I must play it. I don't know that the Nerf. I don't know that I've figured out where I fit the Nerf yet. But again, very new model, and time will tell. I think it might have a spot in our faction. Okay. So somebody says shot. I must have said something that was incorrect. Perhaps when I said that Massacre could only go on a beast. I don't know. Okay, so the Nerf. The Seraph, which is a long-standing beast in our faction, has almost identical stats. And they, in fact, come in a box together where you can build either one. So you could magnetize them. I don't know. I have, as I've played the game more and more, come to find that it really annoys me having magnetized models. It makes it much easier to transport them, but then it's a pain in the ass on the table, and I care more about the ease of use on the table. So I don't magnetize my stuff as often anymore, and I probably won't ever magnetize a Nerf Seraph hybrid, but you could if that's something you're into, and that is great, and it makes it easier to transport them. So anyway, the Nerf is speed 6. It has flight, so it's a normal Legion Beast. Thank you. It has eyeless sight as well, normal Legion Beast. No gun, but it is mat 6 on its 2 attacks. It's Def 14, Armor 16, so it's 1 point of armor less than the Angelius, and the exact same defensive stat line as a Seraph, which alphabetically comes later, although for those of you that have been playing the game, has been around much longer. It has 2 attacks. It has a Grasping Tail and a Hammerhead. So the Grasping Tail is a POW 14, but whenever the Grasping Tail directly hits a model, then all melee attacks against that model automatically hit for the rest of the turn. So it's a little bit different than sustained attack, because what you can do is you can hit with the tail and then buy attacks with the slightly more powerful POW 16 melee attack, which is great. It has the Serpentine rule, can't make slammer tramples, but can't be knocked down either. It's got the standard blood creation and soulless rules, great. What sort of makes up, so John Damaris, Fat Asian of Muse on Minis fame, said something to me that really, it was something I'd never put so succinctly in my own mind, but is something that I also agreed with. And I heard him say this probably a year and a half, 2 years ago, and I don't know if he still says it on his podcast a lot, but he used to say it, which is, if it's a heavy and it doesn't have a gun and it doesn't have reach, I'm not interested. He has a bit of a point. Heavies that don't have reach and don't have a gun have a real problem. Speed 6 helps a little. Like if it was a Speed 4 heavy and didn't have reach, get out of here. But Speed 6 helps a little. But the problem is you're still out-threaded by your standard Speed 6 heavy that's got reach. So how do you fix that? Well, I'm glad you asked. So you can't really fix it on the charge, but his Animus, which costs 1, is a reverse Angelius Animus. Everything within 2 inches of you is pulled 2 inches directly towards you in the order you choose, which means if you are at reach range with the model, you can pull it to be in your melee range, assuming there's not something between the two of you, like a wall or something like that. Nerif's natural home is inside a Scather template. I feel like a voyeur. Somebody's been creeping the thread. Well, hopefully you've been enjoying it, Red Baron. Okay. So I'm actually curious if you wanted to elucidate me a little bit why you think the Nerif's natural home is inside a Scather template. I'd be curious your thoughts on that. Inseer has been posting a lot, by the way. I appreciate those of you that are on here. Hopefully you guys are finding the information I'm sharing valuable, but I also enjoy hearing other people's opinions, and occasionally there are things I don't know about this game. Shocking, I know. But it's always nice to learn new things. So the Nerif, because the Animus would trigger after your charge is complete, he won't allow you to have a successful charge. So if you're walking, your threat range is 8 inches, quote unquote, if you're willing to pay the 1 Fury to pull people in, but your charge threat range is still only 9.5. So he halfway has the problem of a heavy without reach, but he costs 7 points. He still continues to cost 7 points. Feels like there's got to be a place for him. I don't know where it is. I haven't really tried him. I'm going to put him on the table a little bit to see how I feel about that. Oh, I see your point. Okay, that makes sense. So what somebody said was, what you do is you put a Scather template down, which is something the Ravagore can do. There are similar things we can do with some of our other models, but the Ravagore is the most common way. The Scather template auto points infantry models that enter or end their movement in. So what you do is you put a Scather template down, you fly the Nerf into the middle of that Scather template because he is smaller than the Scather template, and then he pulls everything within 2 inches into the Scather template. They all take a point and die if they're single wound infantry. Cool idea. Feels like a lot to set him up from. Yes, it is true that inside a Scather template, when I cover the Ravagore, I'll talk about this more, you are immune to reach attack, non-reach attack, and single wound infantry, but feels like a lot of setup for things that could be done better. So, all right. Anyway, moving on. Nerif, I haven't figured him out yet, but he's pretty new, and he might find a spot in our faction. The next beast on this list, I am going to go on record as saying he will never have a spot in a useful list. This is quite possibly the only Legion model I don't own. And actually, I take that back. I think I did buy a used one from somebody just because I'm a completionist. But Proteus is a character, and he's terrible. He's our only Fury 5 beast. Should make him great. He's a character, but they only made him Mat 6. They didn't actually boost his Mat above our normal beasts. He's got the standard 11-18 defensive stat line. He costs 11, and he's got real problems. He really does have real problems. All right, so anyway, let's cover Proteus a little bit. I have never found a list that I liked Proteus in. I'm sure there's got to be one out there, but I have not found it yet. Somebody says if you're bringing a Legion Beast that's not a Scythian, then you have to come up with something goofy to make it work. It's not 100% wrong. I will be. Oh, somebody. A good point. I will be talking about minion models that play for Legion. That'll be after I go through all of the Legion stuff, but I will be talking about it. So Proteus, Mat 6, Rat 6. So he does have a higher than standard Rat, but he has the standard heavy mat line. 11-18 defensively. He has 4 attacks, 1 gun and 3 melee. So his gun attack is range 6. It's not a typo. It's range 6. But it is POW 14. So what's supposed to be cool about his tentacle lash, he looks like a tentacle horror, is that it drags you in. So if he hits you, he will pull you in all the way to him, unless there's a wall or another model in the way, and drag you all the way to him. And it's a chain weapon, which, as far as I know, is unique in a ranged attack, and it ignores bucklers and shield weapons and shield wall. Okay, so so let's theory craft for a moment. He walks his 6 inches because you can't charge and then shoot your gun because he doesn't have assault. Double checking, does not have assault. So he walks 6 inches and he shoots you 6 inches, so 12-inch start range, which is great. He's Rat 6, so he hits most heavies fairly safely, but because your whole plan is predicated on I'm going to pull in this heavy and I'm going to do work to it, you really need to boost that shot because you can't afford to miss. Great. So he's got 5 Fury. Fine. So we're back down to the normal Fury of a normal beast. No problem. The way drag works, just like it does on that godforsaken Colossal that both Mercs and Convergence of Cirrus have, is once you drag them in, you get a free melee attack, and then you can make more melee attacks. So you're like, this is going to be great. 12-inch threat, which is fantastic. Assuming there's not like a wall in the way, and then I'm going to just beat the crap out of him in melee, right? Yeah, somebody's not wrong that if he had more POW, he'd be fine. So then you've got their 3 melee attacks. You've got a Reach POW 14, which is great because it's got the same rule that it pulls you towards him, because his other 2 attacks are non-reach. So you could also threat 11 inches charging if you wanted to just use that Reach melee to pull them in, except you're in the same situation where you're probably going to want to pay that 1 Fury to boost the hit to make sure they come to you. So the 12-inch threat on the gun versus the POW 14 on the melee, which is the same power, you're probably just going to use the gun, unless there's some reason you can't shoot at them. So let's pretend we use the Tentacle Lash. So I use the Tentacle Lash and I pull you in. I don't get my initial melee attacks, so I'm not actually a... what's the rule? Where I do my melee and my ranged attacks. He doesn't actually have that rule, but he gets to buy melee attacks after he pulls you in with the gun. So he pulled you in with the POW 14 gun, and then he hits you with his strong melee attack, which is his non-reach POW 16. Okay, so POW 16 on a heavy. So we're going to scratch the paint a little bit. It'll be great. And then I can buy 4 more POW 16s. Or I charge you, and I hit you with my POW 14 reach, and I pull you in, and then I get my two initials, my two POW 16 initials, which is great. So let's pretend I went the melee route with the 11 threat. So I charge in, which costs me a fury, accepting special rules. I paid a boost because if I don't hit you, the rest of my kill run is just trash. So I spent 2 fury. I pulled you in with a boosted POW 14, so I did a little bit of damage. Then I hit you with my 2 POW 16s, which do a little bit of damage, and then I buy 3 more POW 16s. Maybe if you have no defensive buffs on you, or I bless this guy first. Except he costs 11 points. And the Carnivian, who we previously talked about, is a POW 18 and 2 16s. So he's significantly more powerful. He's buying POW 18s. He's not reach, and he doesn't have a way to pull you towards him, so his threat range is a little bit shorter. But he comes with an animus of amazing. What is this guy's animus? Let's talk about this guy's animus. Target-friendly Warbeast gains snacking. All right, so snacking's a thing. The way snacking works is if a model with snacking boxes a living model, so we got the requirement of living, but it's great. There's lots of living stuff in the game, fine. The model with snacking can heal D3 damage points. If you heal, then the boxed model is removed from play. So we've got an RFP effect that triggers unboxed instead of destroyed. Sounds great, except you have to already be wounded. So you have to wound your beast, and then he'll RFP something. Meh. On trolls, they just all have snacking built in, and as a just kind of always have it kind of rule, snacking's great. Shredders, one of our lessers, has snacking just built in. It's a great rule to just kind of have. Paying 2 is not as amazing for it. It's just not. So his offensive output is not amazing. If his 2 talons were POW 17s, we'd have something to talk about. If his tentacle were a POW 16, so at least he had 3 initial POW 16s, maybe we'd have something to talk about. The convergence pod. Okay, it's lots of posts real quick. Let's see. So stupid convergence. Rydia fan said, "You're welcome for the stupid convergence." Someone says, "Damn you for making me fear my cock." Virtuoso, thank you, is the rule where you can do both your melee and your ranged attacks. If this guy had Virtuoso, I would hate him less, for the record. Then they talk about convergence stuff I don't care about. Somebody says Proteus, more like Failteus. That was a terrible joke, guys. Terrible jokes are my job. You guys you're doing it wrong. Proteus, the failure hentai monster. He's even bad at that because our battle engine is a much better hentai monster than he is. Nathan, are you in the next room? 2 games in a row at the UK Nationals against LeConte with Rhett made me hate Convergence. I am a little surprised by that. Rhett is actually really, really good against Convergence. Admittedly, LeConte is the best caster against them, but what have you. And yes, I'm getting to his other ability, Nathan. Thank you. And then Nathan's in the cupboard. And my phone just went off. My wife is out of town this weekend, so I'm just double checking. She says, "How is the podcast going?" I'm going to tell her, "Great. You should jump on Twitch," smiley face. Because I know you all want to hear what I'm texting to my wife. Oop, typo. You should jump on Twitch. Smiley face. So I doubt she will, but at least I invited her. So she's out of town this weekend. So I'm in the cupboard with Mr. Tumtus. That sounds dirty, Nathan. Okay, so special rules that Proteus has. So he has this animus that I'm not really impressed by. He has lots of ways to pull things closer to him for his non-melee attacks. Too bad his non-melee attacks are kind of low power. But he has special rules, so it'd be great because he's a character, right? So what special rules does he have? Well, he has the 2 special rules that almost all of our beasts have, which is Soulless and Blood Creation. He's a special issue Absolonia, so he can be included in Absolonia's theme forces. Okay. He can also be bonded to Absolonia. So when I first started playing Hordes, and I had these Legion beasts that could be bonded, I was like, that's fucking amazing. You can be bonded to them. Okay, first of all, none of our casters actually have a bond. So unless you're playing in a league, that's nice. No one cares. Second of all, when you do bond a beast, it's significantly less cool than when you bond a warjack. So I'll probably have to recap this when I get to the warcasters in God knows how many hours. But bonding a warjack means you can allocate an extra focus to them, which is fucking amazing. Bonding a warbeast gives them +1 to their threshold check, which means that their chance of frenzying is lower. This is my impressed face. I'm super excited about wanting to bond my beasts all the time, always. Anyway. Don't tell her it's going great. Honesty is important in a marriage. Thank you, Nate. Uh, somebody on the forum, somebody on the Twitch feed actually said they thought Proteus cost 8 and they still thought he was overcosted. Oh, I apologize. +2 to the frenzy check. Thank you, Nate. Our local judge is reminding me it's +2 to the threshold check. Again, wow. Okay, I'm going to drink. Also, all of you in listener land have to do another shot. Yep, that's true. Somebody just mentioned that in the Twitch. Somebody played him with assault, and he was amazing. Yep, if he had assault, he'd be amazing. Also true. So, to recap, if he cost 8 instead of 11, and or had virtuoso, and or had assault on his gun, and or his 2 open fist initials were POW 17, he'd be great. None of those things are true. Unplayable trash. Thank you for playing. Oh, sorry. I didn't mention his other special rule. His hurting, which is great, except meh. So hurting, sorry, I'll go and read the rule for those of you who don't know. While this model is in its Warlock's control area, so, okay, normal restriction, the Warlock can force, leech, reave, and heal and transfer damage to any War Beast in its battle group that are in this model's command range. So effectively, let's pretend you had a 12-inch control area, just for argument's sake. If this guy was standing 12 inches away from you, the back end of his base, and then his base is roughly 2 inches, so 14 inches, and then its command is 7, you could have a beast 21 inches away from you. Except then that beast is nowhere near your caster. If they kill or move Proteus, he's completely out of control and you can't do anything with him. So unless you're doing some sort of like weird ass assassination run, who cares? Maybe. Okay, here we go. I've figured it out. I've cracked the code. Rias's big problem is her 10-inch control area. Proteus has no good rules except hurting. So if we put a trash 11-point heavy in a beast as a beast in the Warpack, the battle group, for a trash caster, things. How's it going, Andy?
It's going okay.
Nate is like commenting like crazy in here.
Yeah. It's because he's too boring to come here.
Well, he said he was going to come and like jump in. We have a chair here for people that come over and like crash the party. But an hour and a half in, and no one except Andy has, and Andy lives here, so he doesn't really have a lot of choice.
I just finished my Nightfall.
Get anything good?
I got the Devil You Know.
The Devil You Know. That's the hand cannon, right?
Hand cannon, yeah.
Special, what special? Sorry, I really like Destiny.
It's got explosive rounds.
Explosive rounds, badass. I like that better on Icebreaker, but Icebreaker is one of the most amazing guns in the game, so
yeah,
you'll have that.
That's what Ryan just said.
But congratulations nonetheless. Andy's been playing Destiny a little bit less time than us. I think this was actually his first Nightfall run, so good for him. I'm glad he got an exotic. I got 8 strange coins, so for those of you that play Destiny, that is trash. Okay, much like Proteus. Zing, moving on. Oh, good. So we're gonna go from Proteus, unplayable trash, to a good caster. Okay, people have been commenting like crazy. I blame Nate. My mom's commenting like crazy. Thank you, Nate. Any English chocolate requests for the care package? My understanding, no offense, is that your toffee's really good. I don't know much about English chocolate. Heard good things about your toffee, and I like toffee, so feel free to send that. And then also, Rise's feat doesn't need an initial melee attack, just needs a melee. Code truly broken. Yeah, you're right. You're right. Rias and Proteus. I was the first one to crack the code here on this podcast, folks. That's what's going to take the world by storm. Actually, I really hope somebody does win with that, like some big event, because that would be hilarious. Jake, get on that. Or there's a Canadian JVM now, according to the Muse podcasts. I forget his name, though. Anyway, one of you guys make that happen. Somebody said, don't make me vomit. I'm not even drinking. Terrible thoughts. Okay, so next beast. I'm actually legitimately excited about this one. I own 2 of this guy. He's a light. He is the Rake. All right, so what's great about the Rake? Well, what's not great about the Rake, I ask? Okay, so the Rake is a Legion beast, which means he has Pathfinder and Eyeless Sight. He has Soulless and Blood Creation, so he can't attack our casters. He doesn't have a soul. He doesn't give dicks about terrain, and he has Eyeless Sight. Great. He's a light with a Def 15, Armor 14. Fantastic stat line for a light. He has a Reach melee attack, which is POW 12, and Mat 6. And then a non-Reach POW 11, which, whatever. He can kill multiple infantry in a turn. Great. And he's Fury 3. Now we get into the things that make the Rake amazeballs. All right, so he is speed 7. Speed 6 to speed 7 is one of those breakpoints that's just awesome. In my opinion, those breakpoints exist at def 13 to def 14, at armor 19 to armor 20, and at speed 6 to speed 7. There are other breakpoints in the game that are super useful. Couldn't I be the Wisconsin JVM? I am a beautiful, beautiful man, but I don't know. JVM is something else. I don't know that I can really contest with that. Did I mention the Nephilims have eyeless sight? I totally said they had eyeless sight. I just said most of them don't have Pathfinder because they're shitty Legion Beasts. I'm almost done with this cup of Kraken, by the way. It looks like I'm doing a cup of booze/Coke every 45 minutes, which is a terrifying regularity if we keep up with this podcast. Because we are like not even done with the beast yet. I need to speed it up a little bit. Okay, so speed 7, important breakpoint, great. Defense 15, above the awesome defense breakpoint, amazing. He's got stealth. He's a fucking beast with stealth. Amazing. His Animus, which he actually doesn't wind up using a lot, for reasons I'll get into, but is amazing on many of our casters, is Shadow Shift. Cost 2, range self, model gains parry. Parry says you're immune to free strikes. Parry says fuck your free strikes. If you could stack Animi, a little bit of a callback to the Nephilim Bolter, if you could have 2 Animi on yourself, then putting flight and parry on yourself would be amazing. But you can't. So you just take one of our flying casters, you put Shadow Shift on them, and then you go fuck something up, and it's amazing. So, great Animus, great on several of our casters. Both Thag Rushes really like it. Abby 2 can make use of it. Abby 1 can make use of it. They're the best uses for it, in my opinion, of our casters. I might be forgetting one. I'm not forgetting Rias. One of the few things she does do well is she has acrobatics. So, did you mention enough? Oh, yeah. So, and as somebody is reminding me here, so he's 15-14 before any of our defensive buffs. One of our most common defensive buffs, Tenacity, is +1/+1. That makes him a 16-15 motherfucking stealth legend. Guy is fantastic. Costs 4. 4 points. Then we get into the true icing on the cake, which is his special ability. He's the only one in the faction that has it. We do have a minion that plays for Legion, which I'll get into later, that has the same ability. But Bounding Leap, once per activation, after making a full advance, but before performing an action, this model can be forced, to spend 1 Fury, to be placed completely within 5 inches of its current location. So what you do is you move your speed 7, you jump. Pardon me, I burped a little bit. You jump an additional 5 inches, so you've now moved 12 inches, and jumped over models. And when you jump, you're placed, as it said, so you're immune to free strikes during that. It's not a movement, it's a placement. No free strikes, so he doesn't really need the parry Animus on himself, as I said. There are situations, but in general. So you spend the 1 Fury, which is the same amount of Fury it would cost you to charge, but you now move 12 inches instead of 10. You've moved over models. You have reach, so you're threatening 14 inches. And then you're a match 6 reach POW 12 motherfucker. And you kill some shit. This guy has done a lot of work for me. So he has one of those threat ranges. So, in my opinion, one of the things you can't see on paper, but you see on the table all the time, is the unpredictability of a threat range. So a Bronzeback is speed 4 until they put Rush on him, because they always put Rush on him because you pay the Gladiator tax if you play Bronzebacks. So then he's speed 6, and he's got Pathfinder, and then he moves 9 inches, and he's got no reach. He's got Countercharge, so I guess if you had Admonition, you could extend his threat range 4. But short of that, he threatens 9.5 inches. Short of something really special, and there are some cases, a Bronzeback threatens 9.5 static inches. Doesn't care about terrain, does not have eyeless sight, so there are situations where Forest fucks him, but 9.5 inches. You can prepare for 9.5 inches all day, every day. It doesn't mean that Scorn isn't really good at boxing you into a corner where it doesn't matter that he's only 9 inches. He makes you be within 9.5 inches, and then he fucks your shit up. But it's a very predictable threat range. The Rake is an unpredictable nightmare. He just is great. I've used him to kill things like casters, which you wouldn't think, but we have ways to make it happen. I've used him to kill entire units of infantry, because he's got a melee reach initial, a melee non-reach initial, and 3 others at Mat 6. And POW 12 and 11 is plenty for infantry in general. I've used him to kill Stitch Thralls and Necrosurgeons, more importantly, Necrosurgeons. So, Legion, because we play a lot of beasts, we play a lot of high value attacks, which means Mechanothralls that keep coming back are a huge fucking problem for us. So, killing Necrosurgeons is amazing for us. Rakes are fantastic at it. I've used him to kill Gorman lots of times. I've used him to kill Eris lots of times. Again, a Harrier, also pretty good at that job, but if there's something screening Gorman or Eris, Rake's much better at it. I've also used him, so if you're playing against a faction that has lots of gun units, let's say Ret or Signar, you can just put him on a flank within your caster's control area and just be like, okay, come on over to this side. I dare you. They probably won't take that dare. So the Rake is amazing. I really, really, really like the Rake. He costs 4 points, which is a point under what our average lights cost, and he would be worth it at 5. He just would be. I own 2. I've thought about buying a third. I'm pretty sure I saw a list once that had 5 of him in it, and it was very exciting to me, the idea of having 5 of him in a list. So I really, really like the Rake. Okay, so I went on and on about the Rake. The next beast in the list alphabetically, for those of you that have been waiting for this moment, is the Ravagore. So we're going to cut to the Twitch feed real quick and read some comments because I'm very... works during Denny 2's feed. Oh, sorry. I apologize. The Rake does not work during Denny 2's feat because the limitation on Bounding Leap, and I forgot to read the last sentence, is any effect that prevents charging also prevents this model from using Bounding Leap. So, no, you're right. I apologize. No, you're right. It totally works during Denny 2's feat. So Denny 2's feat says you cannot advance except to change facing, but it does not explicitly reduce your speed or prevent charging, and so charging would be legal, except you can't do it. So you can totally just leap 5 inches under Denny 2's feet and say, fuck you, which is great. I'm pretty sure somebody won a large event this year doing that, and I don't remember what event that was, sadly, but you can charge without moving numerically, true. Can still move 0, just only 0. Can charge to 0. Man, everybody is just saying, yep, you can totally do that. It's true. It's amazing. Damn, Nathan is not only more handsome than me, but also a faster typer because he was one of the people that is saying how that's legal. Is Shadowbind not a penalty to movement? No, it's not. Take a drink. Denny 1, no. Denny 2, yes. Yes, that is true. If Denny 1 has feeded on him, reducing his speed, or somehow stuck Crippling Grasp on him through his stealth, because stealth is amazing. But if she did somehow do it, he would not be able to Bounding Leap because a reduction to his speed explicitly prevents charging, which explicitly prevents Bounding Leap. You can do it against something you're already in melee with. No bonus already. It's true. Omnis versus Keith. That's right. It was Omnis versus Keith in Iron Gauntlet. Yes. And I believe he won that Iron Gauntlet match. Not exclusively because of it, but it was a big linchpin in that game. All right, Cup 2 is done. We're going to go back to the Kilo Kai because I worry that after another cup of this, I will no longer be able to taste the difference between Kilo Kai and Kraken, and I want to enjoy the Kilo Kai while I can. So you guys get to listen to me pour soda, and then pour Kilo Kai, then pour a little more soda to top it off. We're going to be good and ready when I get to this Ravagore. You guys are just, I can tell, just bursting in anticipation. All right. So, top off my glass. That Kilo Kai is just about done, which makes me sad. I'll have to go buy more. There's only one store in Madison that sells it. It was actually somewhat difficult to find, which is part of why I also brought Kraken tonight. The store where I bought the Coke does not sell Kraken, or does not sell Kilo Kai, rather, and it was out of my way to go get the Kilo Kai, and I didn't want to start the stream late, even though we started 5 minutes late anyway. So, oh, Kilo Kai, you sweet, sweet bastard. All right. The Ravagore. Sorry, I need a moment. The Ravagore is faction defining. He just is. If the Ravagore did not exist in our faction, despite all of the amazing tools that it has, would not be the faction that it is today. Second best ranged beast in the game. If you're saying the Bomber is better than a Ravagore, you're wrong, and you should feel bad. I'm actually curious which beast you think is better than the Ravagore, because I disagree. I think he's the best ranged beast in the game. Okay. Ravagore, standard speed 6, standard defense 11, standard armor 18. He's only Mat 5. Mat 5 actually, hilariously, in some lists, actually is a little bit of a drag on him, because he has 2 POW 16 melee attacks, and you want him to go destroy things in melee, despite being the best gunjack in the game. Sometimes you want him to be the best melee beast in the game also, and at map 5 he's just not. So map 5 is a little sad, but can work around it. So he has Blood Creation and Solace, or his 2 special abilities, just like almost all of our other beasts. The Sentinel. Oh, is that the new Scorn bug-looking thing? Probably. So here's why the Ravagore is better. He's better in every way. So he's Rat 5, which I believe is the same as the Sentinel. He's Speed 6, which for those who are keeping home is twice the speed of a Speed 3 bug. He's range fucking 14. So, nope, best gun beast in the game. Unless the Sentinel is something I'm completely forgetting about. Okay, so I love this guy. So his gun is both fire type and acid type. So let's see. What can he not shoot at that our fire doesn't already prevent him from shooting at? What's immune to corrosion that's not immune to fire? I honestly don't know. Cankerworm. He can't shoot at Cankerworm. Other than that, nothing comes to mind. So most of the things are immune to fire, or that are immune to corrosion, also are immune to fire. And there's way more things that are immune to fire, even though there's not that many, than there are that are immune to corrosion, unless I'm completely forgetting some things, which might be a shot for all of you listening at home. So Speed 6, Rat 5, defense, standard defense for a Legion Beast. He has Pathfinder and Eye of Sight because fuck your rules. His gun is range 14, AoE 3, POW 15. Pretty good already. I'm pretty okay with this. Makes me a little bit excited. But then we get to his Animus. His Animus says, and then there's more. There's 2 things that are amazing, but his Animus is amazing. His Animus is cost 1, range 6. Target friendly faction war beast ranged weapons gain continuous effect fire. So Jeremy, if you have an AoE 3 and you're just continuous effect fire and you shoot at something and you miss, but why would you? Because you're going to just boost. You're going to buy the Animus. You're going to boost to hit, and then you're going to have a boosted Ret 5 shooting at something that doesn't care about stealth, doesn't care about forests. So why would you miss? Well, I don't know, but maybe you would. Let's pretend it's a world where you do. If you min drift off your target, Slag Troll? I'm sorry, no, the Ravagore is the Slag Troll. Oh, the Slag Troll being immune to corrosion, sure. Except they bring Pyre Trolls against us because Pyre Trolls are way, way better against Legion in general. Sorry, side note on the Twitch feed. So if you happen to drift in a unit full of infantry, say Kayazi, which would be one of the few things he can miss regularly, or a shield wall unit, maybe you hit the target and the shield wall unit, everything in that 3-inch AoE gets lit on fire. You know what's awesome about fire? Fire fucking kills infantry. It's amazing. I like putting fire on everything. It's also amazing against casters. So you have the Speed 6, range 14, so 20-inch threat before you factor anything else in, just 20-inch threat. That if it hits a War Machine caster, that War Machine caster, assuming the fire doesn't go out in one turn, gets to run away crying because now he's on fire, he's taking damage that ignores his focus overboosting, and he's real sad. There are very few. There's offhand, I'm thinking of less than 5 War Machine casters that don't get their day ruined by being on fire. Plus, you probably just hit him with a POW 15 boosted damage attack from your Ravagore, or you hit something within an inch and a half of them with your Ravagore. So, like, this guy's just straight baller. Then, on top of that, because that wasn't amazing enough, he also, in that AoE, you leave a 3-inch ring in place, and that 3-inch Scather cloud, it's called a Scather template. That Scather template it's not a cloud, because that would be unfair, because we ignore clouds and you don't. So it's not a cloud. But what it does do is any enemy models or non-faction friendly models, which it doesn't come up that often, but I mean, if you have a minion model in your faction, maybe you have to worry about it a little bit. Entering or ending their activation in the AoE suffer 1 point of corrosion damage. So let's imagine a world where you would take 2 Ravagores in a list. I know, crazy, it's cool. And let's imagine a world where you're playing Epic Lilith, which we'll cover in more detail later. But the important thing is that her feat is all of your beasts get an extra ranged attack. And let's imagine a world where you're playing against Crix, because, Crix is a thing. So you're going to lay down 4 Scather templates that are boosted Rat 5s to hit. So you're probably, and you don't care about stealth, fuck Bane Thralls. You're probably just going to pick 4 models that are at the front of his army that are spread out in a useful way, and you're going to just put down 4 3-inch rings that say if any of your infantry enter these rings, they die. And then you get a second turn because you just bought a time walk on Crix. Like, that's just one of many applications. I have had this guy completely shut down the offensive output of an entire unit of infantry with one Ravagore making one fucking shot at one infantry model. I hit the model. I didn't even kill him because he was, I don't know, in shield wall. Who cares? I lit him on fire because fuck him. I left a Scather template there, which was completely in the way of the rest of his unit charging anything in my army. And then his entire unit was just dick all useless. This guy is faction defining. He is amazing. I have played lists that didn't have a Ravagore, and there's some, like, having a Ravagore in your list forces your opponent to play the entire game differently. It just redefines where they can put their caster. It redefines what they can do with their units. It redefines, and God help them if there's somewhere useful you can put a Scather Cloud near forest. Something that somebody mentioned earlier that's a great move is you move one of your beasts up and then you shoot them in the back with a Ravagore. Seems crazy, I know. But so let's pretend I have a Carnivian. Carnivian puts his own Animus on himself, so he goes up to armor 20, and then he charges the enemy. So he just spent 3 of his 4 Furies, so he's a valid transfer target. He's now armor 20. Defense 11, but such is life. He's 9 inches out in front of my army, and he's like, man, armor 20 is pretty good, but, you know, Crix has like a unit of Bane Thralls in front of me, and that's gonna just pick me up, because fuck Bane Thralls. As a longtime Ret player, by the way, fuck Bane Thralls. And Bile Thralls, but whatever. So there's a unit of Bane Thralls in front of me, and they're just going to kill me. And Ravagore's like, it's alright, boss, don't even worry about it. I'm going to stand back here. I'm not going to Animus, because why light my own guy on fire, right? I'm going to boost the hit in the back of a Def 11 Heavy. So I need a 4 to hit boosted, so not triple Snake Eyes. Then when I hit you, I'm going to put a 3-inch AoE around you, which is conveniently just the right size that if any of their infantry that don't have reach enter it, or try to get into melee range with you, they take a point of damage. So Bane Thralls, not a problem. Kayazi, not a problem. What are some other really common non-reach infantry? Mage Hunter Strike Force would charge a Warjack, but not a War Beast. So that doesn't really apply. Mage Hunter Infiltrators, perhaps, because they get to ignore the +2 armor. Not a problem. There are many other applications, but it's amazing. I've even put it on a Harrier, so I'll have a Harrier charge out, kill their solo. But he's like, man, I retreated a little bit, but I'm really close to all these infantry. And the Ravagore's like, that's all right. I'm going to shoot you in the back with my Scather Cloud. It's going to be 1 POW more than your armor. I'm not going to boost. So unless I roll boxcars, it won't kill you, and then they will not be able to come after you if they're non-reach. It's amazing. Like, the utility for this thing is, oh, thank you, Blood Witches, which do just fucking pick up our heavies, by the way. Blood Witches can't come after you. But Bane Thralls don't have reach, they suck. The rule is if you're a heavy and you don't have reach and you don't have a gun, you suck. And yes, Grotesques do suck. Thank you, Nathan. They're terrible. When we get there, I will probably take a shot just to cleanse my mind of the fact that they exist. I almost spewed because somebody called Grotesques Legion's core unit. Alright, so anyway, Ravagore, faction defining, amazing beast. Costs 10 points, which several of our heavies actually cost 9, which is also why part of why our beasts are so good is they're a little bit undercosted for what they do. Like an Angelius costs 9 points, and it's amazing. Carnivian costs 11, but its Animus is baller as hell. So Ravagore costs 10, which is a little on the high side for some of our heavies. Well worth it. And the Animus is not range self. So that Archangel that's got the D3 plus 1 range 10 AoE 3s, you can put this Animus on him, and then he's got range 10 D3 plus 1 AoE 3 shots strafe that all light shit on fire. I picked up an entire unit of what the hell are their name? Nuala and the Blood Trackers with him. Admittedly, their armor's low enough that some of the damage rolls just straight killed them, but I'd also lit the entire unit on fire. Like, this guy's just, the Ravagore's just amazing. The Ravagore is fantastic. All right, moving on, continuing in the trend of fantastic heavies, is the Scythian. So, the only problem with the Scythian is I get sad whenever I don't have one in my army. That's the only problem with the Scythian. Okay, I'm sorry. Nathan wants me to build a Riot list with 2 units of Grotesques and Proteus, win the LCQ, and War Machine Weekend. And then I would never have to play War Machine again because I would be a god. So, All right. So anyway, the Scythian. So the thing with the Scythian is, remember how I said we have a lot of high power attacks, and so a lot of high value attacks, I should say. And so we've got this problem where when you're bringing shit back, it's a problem for us. Enter Scythian. So the Scythian has Pathfinder and Eyeless Sight and 2 reach melee attacks at POW 17 because he's a Legion Beast. He also can't charge our casters or attack them, and he's a Soulless because Legion Heavy. He's Defense 11, Armor 18 because Legion Heavy. He's Speed 6 because Legion Heavy. He's Mat 6 because Legion Heavy. Fury 4 because Legion Heavy. Okay. So what makes him unique, besides being a cost 9 2 initial attack heavy, is that he's actually a cost 9 3 initial attack heavy in a lot of cases. So he has a rule called Chain Attack Bloodbath. Chain Attack Bloodbath says if you hit the same target with both initial attacks, get another attack. But not one other attack. No. We're Legion. Fuck you guys and your normal rules. Take a sweep attack, 1 attack against every model in your line of sight and reach. Pretty good. So this has many applications. It has the application where you put him into a heavy and then beat up all the infantry around that heavy, which is fantastic. It's got the application where you go up against a tough model. See the previously mentioned Bane Thrall. So you go into Bane Thrall and you hit him and he toughs. And you go, that's amazing. I've never been so happy for a tough check to pass. I am going to, and we'll get to this in a minute why you would do this, I'm going to now buy my Animus and then hit you again. Then when you hit him again, you're like, now I'm going to attack all your buddy Bane Thralls and kill all of them too. So the reason you're going to kill all of his buddy Bane Thralls, and the reason you kill him the second time and why you buy your Animus after the first attack, is because his Animus is Slaughterhouse. Its range self cost 1. If it were not range self, it would be unfair. It just would. So range self, so you have to actually only use it on him. Also fairly good on any of our reach melee beaters. So Abby 2 under her feet. Either Thagrosh. Also don't mind this Animus at all. Yes, his chain attack would be very terrible if it didn't have reach. Wow, Raylene says I'm so boring she's going to go clean the kitchen. Raylene also doesn't play War Machine, so I guess I can live with that. Drago says what? Yes, Drago has this same ability. So I'll tell you what. I'm going to take a list with a Scythian, and you're going to take a list with Drago, and then when I beat you, we'll compare which one of them was better. So the reason the Scythian doesn't care about your Bane Thralls with tough, and why he's amazing, is because Animus' range self cost 1. This model gains takedown. Same exact ability on Slaughterhousers for those of you that play pigs. Also, I'm sorry, because you play pigs. Lasts for 1 turn. Models disabled by a melee attack made by a model with takedown, which is a fancy way of saying you now have this ability on your melee attacks. Cannot make a tough roll, so fuck your Bane Thralls. Also, models boxed by a melee attack by this model are removed from play. So you don't get tough. And you're RFP'd, so Lich 2 can eat a dick. So what you do is you take 2 of these guys under Saren, and we'll get to this when we cover Saren, and you RFP his army, and then you tell him they can't attack him, because that's what Saren does, because she loves to cricks the middle finger, and then you smile. So Saren, fantastic English cricks. We'll get to her. But Scythian's amazing. Only RFP available in the faction. I'm sure somebody on the Twitch stream will tell me if we can take Slaughterhousers. I'm almost positive we cannot. But I'm going to go over the minions that we can take later, so I'll be checking that later. But at least one of the very few options for RFP in the faction. We have a couple of spells that can do it, but pretty rare. And reach, and quote-unquote 3 initials against, with the third one being against everything in their melee range if you hit the same team twice. They're amazing. One of the most disheartening things in the game is to send a unit of infantry into a Scythian and not kill it. Because then, because of the way rules work, because beasts are amazing, is you spend some fury on your caster to make sure they're fully functional, and then the Scythian prays to God there's an enemy model he can hit twice, and then he just kills all of them. Just all of them. It's amazing. He's the only beast in the game I know that when he attacks a UA that's got boxes with his first attack, he's praying to God to roll snake eyes. I had it happen one time. I was attacking, so I had a unit of halberdiers around him. They weren't able to all charge him, and so they just didn't kill him. And then the UA was one of them, so he hit the UA at dice plus. That's why they didn't kill him. They shield walled into him, so they were up to armor 18, so dice off 1. He rolled snake eyes on the UA to only do 1 damage to him with the first attack. So he hit him again, and then he killed all of them. It was glorious. The only feeling that's better than that is when the Phoenix flame bursts against an entire unit of infantry that didn't kill it. But that's the ret side of me coming out a little bit. Pigs are terrible, you say. Sorry, I can't hear you over the sound of this battle report. Fuck you, Nate. Fuck you. All right. I'm loving all the minion burns this cast. Very satisfying. Snacking RFP. Yeah, snacking does RFP, but it very rarely comes up in a useful way. There are many times when I'm like, God, I wish my snacking shredder was wounded. But then if I wounded, I could take out an aspect because they're little pansies. Proteus does have snacking. Yep. We can take slaughterhouses. Okay, so slaughterhouses are another legit RFP option, but Scythians, we love beasts. Scythians pretty good. So, all right. So the Seraph. The Seraph is the more classic, quote-unquote, Nerf. He is also the best way to extend our threat ranges. So this guy is an 8-cost heavy. He's not a 7-cost heavy, so sad face. But he's got a gun, range 10, POW 12. He's rat 5 with it. He's got a non-reach melee attack, mat 6, PS 16. He's speed 6, because Legion Beast. He's got the same stat line as the previously mentioned Nerf, def 14, armor 16, and he's got 4 fury. Pretty good for 8 points. The gun being range 10, POW 12 is good right out of the gate, but then it also has strafe, D3 plus 1 attacks as a star attack, which makes it baller. This guy... Can an Epic Lilith list be good that doesn't have a Seraph in it? It can be. I don't like to play an Epic Lilith list that doesn't have a Seraph. One of the problems an Epic Lilith list can run into is not enough quantity of shots, and having an extra strafe in there makes a big difference. So I almost always make sure one of these is in an Epic Lilith list. And we're about to cover his Animus. Because of his Animus, I would also take him with any caster in our faction. He can be good. Maybe he doesn't fit in your list. Great. He costs 8 points. I understand. He's a heavy that's not super. I mean, POW 14 melee, POW 12 gun is not like, oh man, I'm going to kill a heavy. But Animus? So his Animus, cost 1, range self. Him, and if you have him in your list and he and your caster are not both casting this most turns, you might be doing it wrong. Like, you just might be. So his Animus is, when this model ends its normal movement, one friendly faction model that this model at any point in its movement was within 2 inches of is placed, not moved, placed, so immune to free strikes, completely within 2 inches of the friendly of its current location. So it doesn't, like, if you move by a model, it doesn't teleport them over to you. It moves them within 2 inches of their current spot. You can only move one model with it, but that means that you effectively can extend the threat range of 2 models in our faction every turn by 2 inches, using Slipstream on both him and on the caster. It's amazing. We're already speed 6. We already ignore terrain. It lets us out threat pretty much anything in the game. It's really, really solid. Okay, so really, really, really solid Animus. Much like... What's a comparison I can make here? It's an Animus that's on a heavy that you would, if it was on a light, you'd have one in every single list. And I'm fairly confident that there are equivalent things. It's either Trolls or Scorn. I forget which one. Has an Animus that's amazing that's on a heavy. One of the two, I'm almost positive it's Snipe, but I can't remember which one. So anyway, it's similar to that, in that if you could get this on a light, you would just take it in every army ever. And an 8-point heavy that doesn't do a lot of work, you have to kind of plan around it, which is fine. It's got Blood Creation because Legion. It's got Eyeless Sight because Legion. It's got Soulless because Legion. It's got Flight because Legion. It has the Serpentine roll. It's another one of those cannot be knocked down, cannot make slam or trample attacks. And then the one thing that makes its melee attack somewhat forgivable, especially against hordes, is crit poison. So it's only POW 14, but if you crit at mat 6, which is not frequent, but happens, if you charge in and then buy 3 more attacks, one of the 4 will almost very likely get you the crit at least once on a heavy. Then you get an additional die. So you can, if you get it on the charge, then it's a 4 dice charge, which is great. Sometimes if I'm going against a high armor target with him, I'll charge in, I'll boost the hit, and then I'll charge in, and then I'll either get it or I won't, and then I'll buy an attack, and I'll either get it or I won't, and then I'll buy an attack. And whichever one, if of those last 2 attacks, if either one of them crits, I will boost the damage to go to 4 dice. So he's great. I love him. I love the Seraph. He's a fantastic model. The only thing that disappointed me about the Nerf is that the Seraph is so good that he kind of outclasses the Nerf. But they both have they probably both have their place. I have not, like I said, figured out the Nerf yet. That's fine. Oh, good point. That is an excellent comparison. Rush, which is on the Gladiator, is very comparable in that it gives you plus 2 inches of movement and Pathfinder. So very similar. We already have Pathfinder, so we don't really need that. But it only costs us 1 instead of 2. And Trolls have Snipe on the Axer, but he's not a heavy, so I was probably thinking Gladiator. That's a good point. Okay, so our second lesser, we do have 3, but this is the second of the 3, is the Shredder. Do I think he's the best lesser in the game? The other lessers in the other 2 factions, the one that Scorn's got and the one that Minion got, are good. And the Harrier is good. I don't really love the other one in our faction. Like he's okay. The Stinger's not bad, but he's in my opinion the worst of our 3. I think that the Shredder is categorically the best lesser. The reason for that being he costs 2 because he's a lesser. He's speed 6 because he's a lesser. He's got 2 fury because he's a lesser. He's def 13, armor 12 with 13 boxes. He's a mat 5, pow PS 10. But the reason he's the best lesser in the game is for 2 points. You get access to an Animus that is cost 1, range 6, target friendly model gains plus 1 defense and armor. Not faction specific. Plus 1 defense and armor is amazing. Costs 1, not range self. It is for a low cost model, it's probably the best Animus in the game. And it's on a fucking 2-point model. So I would say best lesser in the game. With 4 attacks, you have a 37% chance to crit, assuming you hit on 5+. Man, look at all you guys with all the math. God damn it. Somebody is saying I don't have to drink. The rest of you have to drink because I didn't remember it was the Axer. But whatever, I'll drink too. Okay, so tenacity is amazing. One thing I didn't mention about lesser warbeasts, and one of the defining lesser warbeast rule is they can't make power attacks, which is fine. They're on a small base. That's valid. What the Shredder does, in addition to tenacity, which if he just had tenacity, if he was 2 points and all he did was hover around the feet of your caster, and he had 13 boxes, def 13, armor 12, and had no weapons and no other abilities, I would still fucking take him. But PP, in their generosity, decided that they'd give him amazing abilities too. So he's got snacking, which we mentioned earlier. If he takes any damage, then when he kills something that's living, he can remove it from what he boxes something that's living. He can remove it from play and heal D3 damage points, which is great. It comes up occasionally. It's always funny when it does. I've had him RFP heavy, which was hilarious. Because then they don't get to reave the fury off him, so fuck them. But his other defining characteristic is rabid, and I am going to possibly cause all of you to drink by saying I don't think this is on any other model in the game. And then people are arguing about the math on your chance to hit and crit with poison. All of you drink. Drinks for everyone. Okay. Anyway, his I believe unique ability is called Rabid. So what Rabid is spend 1 fury. He gets plus 2 speed. He gets Pathfinder because he does not have built-in Pathfinder, but he gets plus 2 speed, Pathfinder, and all of his attacks are boosted attack and boosted damage rolls for 1 turn. So he's only got the one melee initial, and he's only mat 5. So what you do is you go Rabid, which at which point you're speed 8, Pathfinder. You probably don't charge because the damage is already boosted, and so charging is a little unfortunate. So you've got an 8.5 inch threat range. You walk 8.5 inches. You attack something at boosted mat 5, boosted PS 10. Then you buy another attack at boosted mat 5, boosted PS 10, and you go, that was amazing. I'm really glad I brought this guy just for his Animus, and now he fucked up your shit on top of it. That's amazing. So yeah, he's amazing. If you have a list that you're playing that does not have a Carney and does not have a Shredder and is not a Lilith 2 list, it's entirely possible you're doing it wrong and you should find 2 points for a Shredder. I am going to just go on record and say that. That's fine. I don't mind being wrong about that one. I don't think I am, but And someone says I am correct. No one else says rabid. Okay, so the final lesser is a stinger. So the stinger has a stat that he has a reach melee attack and a spray 6 ranged attack, which means the effective difference between his ranged attack and his melee attack is the shortest, I believe, of any model in the game, because you can charge 9 and reach to 11, or you can walk 6 and shoot 12. So the difference in his threat range is an inch, which I believe is the shortest in the game. Again, you all get to drink if I'm wrong. I'll drink too. Yep, no one else has Revan. Yep, good job. Okay, so he's a lesser, so cost 2, Fury 2, Speed 6. He's Mat 5, Rat 4. So that range spray 6 is only on a Rat 4 beast, but it's fine. He's got Eyeless Sight because Legion. Depth 13, Armor 12, the same as his other two brethren. Is the same as the Shredder, not the same as the Harrier. Here's the problem with the Stinger, and I like him. I've played him several times. His melee attack has the special ability Suicidal Attack. Suicidal Attack says if you damage a model with your melee attack, immediately after the attack is resolved, mark all the damage circle in your body aspect. So, A, that takes out 4 of his 13 boxes, which is a drag. B, if you buy another attack with him, then you're only going to hit with 1 dice damage. What sort of kind of makes up for it is it also has poison. So even if you buy another attack, it's at 2 dice. But what will usually happen with this guy is you'll go after a slightly higher target. It's POW 12 and Mat 5. So what you'll usually do is go after a slightly harder target, like a light. Lights are really right where kind of he shines, or medium infantry. So you'll charge it, which costs you 1 of your fury. You'll boost the hit because you're only Mat 5. Gives you pretty good chances to hit up, like a 50-50 chance to hit a Mat 15. Or up to a Depth 15 rather. You'll likely hit. Then you'll be a POW 12. You'll get a dice for the poison and a dice because you charged. So you'll be rolling 4 dice at PS 12, which averages about 26, which will kill most medium infantry in the game and fuck up pretty hard most lights in the game. At least pretty hard for a 2-point model. I'm not saying you're going to kill it or anything. So it's okay. I get really downhearted about the whole barbed stinger taking out his whole body. I really don't like losing 4 of your 13 boxes. I really don't like that if you don't charge and boost, then your next attack is pretty ineffectual. Feels a little bit like the Angelius that way. The Angelius with his armor-piercing POW 14, like, that first hit is just like, well, bam! And then after that, you're like, oh, I scratched you a little bit. So, feels very similar. A bomber that had rush and mobility? Charge 7 with a half-inch melee. They're arguing about something being a semi also terrible threat range. Proteus. Okay, Hardy. Sorry. Proteus is the same Proteus because he's got a range 6 attack and he's got a reach melee. Yeah, Proteus is the same. Proteus continues to suck, so Proteus can eat a dick, Nate. All right. Anyway, so in melee can be kind of cool. With the Rat 4 Spray 6, I just don't ever use it. The only way I would be likely to use that if it was somehow had Assault. There are situations where you might use it. It's nice to have that option, I guess. I don't know. I don't know that. Have I ever used his spray? I've been playing Legion a long time, about 2 years. I actually have stats, which I'll for those of you that managed to stick it out for the whole 6 hours, I'm actually going to go over my stats for my win-loss record with Legion and the different casters because it's interesting to me and I'm on camera so I can do whatever I want. But I don't think in the just over 2 years I've been playing Legion that I've ever used the spray on a stinger. I just haven't. So anyway, other abilities he has. He's got Lurker, which is cost 1, range 6, give a model Bushwhack. Bushwhack is make a ranged attack, then combat action. You can melee or ranged. It's more commonly used with ranged attacks. But you make your melee or ranged attack, and then your normal movement. If you do this, you must make a full advance, which is to say you may not charge or run as your normal movement. So, again, I don't know that I've ever used this Animus. It's situationally useful. Probably the most useful person to put it on would be one of the Liliths. But, meh. Doesn't come up a lot. He's a lesser war beast. He's soulless. He's blood creation. His star action, which is legitimately cool, is dig in. So dig in, for those of you that don't know, is this model gains cover, and then when it's in cover, because it basically puts it in an infinitesimally small trench. It gains cover, does not suffer blast damage, and does not block a line of sight. Remains dug in until it is moved, is placed, or is engaged. Cannot dig into solid rock or man-made constructions, because that comes up in every game. Not really, I've never seen it come up. It can begin the game dug in. Again, sure. I don't know why being dug in on your deployment line is any good. If you had AD, then maybe. Which, hilariously, we do have an AD beast, which we haven't gotten to yet. But at any rate, Stinger's pretty good. I think he's the least good of our 3 lessers. On the other hand, our other 2 lessers are amazing, so he's just good. So, nothing wrong with that. Proteus is the same range versus melee threat as Stinger. Proteus beast deals best beast. I found this